Chapter 70. 4.8 Third Blue Star. CIS Soul Domain I. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. 4.8 Third Blue Star. CIS Soul Domain I. The children enjoy the 3 short peaceful days before the hell days begin. With the help of his system U, Guilin no longer needed to overwork himself using his telepathic abilities. He only needs to instruct you to pass his messages to their allies in their minds, since the result is similar to his abilities. The others didn't overthink about the different voices resounding within their minds. He let his system contact others except for Xie. Since his connection with the villain is a permanent link, he only needs to think in his mind and their connection will be opened whenever he wants. But for some reason Xie had become sticky and sticky more each day. Xie would never leave the bed unless he wakes up. When going to the bathroom to brush teeth and take shower, Xie would always follow him. He follows him like a shadow, not even leaving a few meters distance from him. Xie had become like this ever since he woke up crying that day. Though Guilin never asked for the reason, he allowed the latter to do what he wanted. After all, they were already running out of time. Last night of peace. Everybody was in room 0373 doing whatever they wanted to do. On one of the upper bunkers of the double-deck beds, Su Luan is taking a nap while using Yun Li's shoulder, while the latter ignores the heavy thing on his body as he reads his book in silence. Li Xing and Yi Zheng on their own bed were playing with cards, entertaining themselves. On the opposite side of their bed another pair is in an even weirder pose. The first pair. The taller child is hugging the small child in his embrace, with the elder one hiding his face on the other's shoulder. He is hugging him so tightly that the other couldn't even move and had a hard time breathing. But despite that, the latter one doesn't voice any complaint. Even though Guilin always spoils that person, and this is not the first time he acts this weirdly possessive, if one thinks of that person's age, there is no way he should be acting this way for no reason. He could even feel the weird sneak glance of their other friends inside the room. Whispering can be heard inside the room. From the upper bunker. Su Luan, who finally opened his eyes from his nap, is that one there has always been this strange? Aren't he a bit dependent on Guilin? He whispered to his friend beside him. Can't you just mind your own business, Alan, retorted Yun Li. Despite of that, his eyes never left the open book in front of him. But he is really acting weird. That brat below says that the guy isn't like that before. Instead, he is supposed to be a calm and cool type. Moreover, is that cousin of yours supposed that indulgent towards someone else? When even you, Ollie, treats me worse than dirty when you're in a bad mood, said Su Luan. This time Yun Li finally got interested in the conversation. After all, if there is someone here who knew more about Guilin, it would be him. They might not have any close interaction, but as a future leader figure Yun Li have been observing Guilin in their clan. Though rumors say that their heir became an introvert at the age of 3 and stopped attending parties and family banquets, he had seen Guilin before he suddenly retreated. The Guilin that he knows isn't like this one before him. Always smiling as though having fun at almost everything. Seemingly approachable despite of his languid and aloof gaze. Even the usual OCD behavior of avoiding the other's touch except for Xie. This Guilin seems like a different person, but at the same time not. Yun Li feels that there is something wrong with this Guilin, but at the same time he knows this is the same person. But the Guilin he knew from before is the opposite of this. He shows no hints of emotion on his face. Despite his overwhelming intelligence, he had no emotion nor feelings for others and for himself. The Guilin from outside this institute is nothing but a machine. A machine that his clan made to take control and stabilize their clan. That's the Guilin he knows. Not this one who looks like him and feels like him but not like him either. Like looking at the reflection of the moon on the surface of a pond. The figure is clear, but not true. Yun Li didn't know that the only reason he felt that this person is Guilin is because the main character is using the original's body, leaving traces of the former Guilin despite the soul inside having been long replaced. There have always been prerequisite requirements for a world hopper to be able to enter a world. The heavenly laws of that world will not treat the world hopper entering the world as invader as long as the world hopper's system prepares a vessel for them to use. They needed an original residence vessel to possess. This body is prepared by their system with the permission of that world's heavenly laws. In exchange they need to do tasks as payment. Before the world hopper could do his job to repair, destroy or stabilization, the minimum requirements are needed. This is the case for Guilan and all others who are under whatever subsystem they worked for. The second option is to enter as a soul fragment, and with the world's heavenly laws' permission that soul fragment will be allowed to enter the reincarnation circle of that world and be reborn as an original resident. A reincarnation means new life. All original memories of the former self will be erased. Though there will be cases when a soul fragment of a godly being enters a world to rest, though they enter reincarnation their memories were not erased but instead sealed. Only when they've reached a certain threshold that their memories will be unlocked and they would be able to leave the world in the form of ascension to higher realm worlds or to where they came from. This is the case of our male lead, Yi Shijie. His soul fragments are scattered in the other worlds. The key to unsealing their memories is to meet the main character He Anjing, but sometimes there is the case when the soul fragment is badly injured that he couldn't wake up as soon as he meets his key. This is also the reason why Yi Shijie could only sometimes wake up. His soul fragments were badly injured and had re-entered reincarnation from multiple times. Of course. Unlike destroyers who enter the world without permission by bypassing the heavenly laws thanks to the system they are not supposed to have, the vessel they have can only be used temporarily. They could stay in the world in a vessel for a few years and need to look for another vessel to stay longer in that world. Moreover, most people don't care about others aside from their goal of world energy. Though sometimes they would bump with world hoppers, who are out for their jobs, and hunt them for their system, items and cultivation. This will allow them to gather more resources for cultivation. Though this is no different from killing for loots. Most destroyers were evil gods whose hobby is killing. They are no different from criminals. These destroyers were the target of those world hoppers who worked as executioners. System U's original job before becoming Guilan's system is this one. He's the 13th rank executioner under the list within the Nether system, though he is weaker than those full-pledged executioners from the main core from the God system. A/N. If everyone hasn't read the information chapter yet, then this is a short explanation for this system authority. The main core system is called God System Equals. This is a system that allows users to enter worlds and complete certain tasks. Completion of tasks were given ample of rewards. Most of them are resources for cultivation. Most world hoppers were deities of other worlds who just ascended and got freed from their world's rules constraints and were able to leave the stars they came from to go to other worlds. But higher realm worlds need minimum requirements of cultivation, and those in deity stage are not able to enter higher worlds without reaching the prerequisite for it. This is the reason for the God system. They help those deities reach higher cultivation stages in exchange for doing tasks for points that can be for resources. The Nether system is a subsystem of the God system. It has a different purpose. This is like a purgatory realm. World hoppers who had sinned were placed here. They still do the same tasks like those in the God system, but the difference is that the restrictions on them were stricter. Sealed memories. Failure means death, and there is a warden looking after them. Only when the criminal cleared up his bad karma record that he could choose whether to get his cultivation removed back to being a deity or stay to work as a normal civil servant under the Nether system. God system. Main core system, under the ruler gods, Nether system. Subsystem, under the Nether gods. The strongest Nether gods are a couple whose strength is only second to the ruler gods. This pair is connected to the ruler god couple by blood. Yunli observed Guilan, who is currently coaxing the one embracing him like a hugging pillow. The Gui heir I know would never indulge someone like this. He even ignores his own father, Prime Minister, who wishes to spoil him rotten. That one is just a machine in the human body, but this one is. Despite his indifference and uncaring attitude towards us, he is only specially very human-like towards Xia Yi. But I've never heard of the name Xia Yi before. Anyway, this Gue Lan is better than the former. At least this one can act like a human with emotions. I treat you as trash only when you don't let me read my books," said Yunli. Then he glanced at him coldly. "Unless you wish to be treated as one right now." Alan, hearing his friend's voice turning cold, made Su Luan shut his mouth to avoid being scolded. He even slightly shook his head in disagreement. Yunli only snorted at him once before he resumed his reading. With them knowing, even the pair in the lower bunker, as they were regularly peeking sneak glances at the pair from the opposite bed. They knew how weird Xia Yi is acting right now. They've been staying in the same group for a few months and know what kind of personality Xia Yi has. He is silent and aloof to almost everyone except Gue Lan. But once they become friends, he will allow you to enter his comfort zone. He might treat you badly on the surface, but he would really harm you. He will even protect you from others outside his comfort zone. This is the first time Xia Yi acts this spoiled towards Gue Lan. He is acting like Gue Lan will leave him, and he wanted to chain him on him. Not even being separated as they went to the bathroom to pee. Meanwhile, in Gue Lan's mind, he is talking with his system. You, what is wrong with him? That host. You doesn't know what is wrong. I promise you that I've scanned him all over for so many times, but there is nothing wrong with his body. He is completely healthy. Gue Lan could only let out a long sigh in his heart. He leans all his weight on the guy behind him while playing with his light gray shaded hair. Let's talk, all right? Could you tell me what is wrong? Asked Gue Lan. Obviously is speaking slower than usually and softer as well. But the one he asked didn't show any reaction at all. Not even a single word was uttered. Only silence was given to him. Though he could feel the arms hugging him slightly tightening in response. Okay. I understand, let's talk in our mind, okay? You can tell me anything. It will only be between the two of us," said Gue Lan. This time Gue Lan didn't wait for his reply and just closed his eyes, opening the permanent mental link he made with Xia Yi's soul. Xia Yi, who understood what he meant, also closed his eyes and decided to meet Gue Lan in the soul domain. Soul domain. This time it was Gue Lan who woke up in another person's domain. Unlike his black space domain full of stars and galaxy, this place is full of white thick fog. Under his foot is a soft, flaming lava, but because of his special bloodline, most things that can harm others aren't that useful against him. Just his special bloodline could give him existence close to an eternal being. Nothing could really harm him except of that one single thing. The only weakness of his bloodline. The situation is the same when he is in his own soul domain. His soul appearance is his original face, but the same as his current vessel's age. The body of a 6-year-old young boy. As he walks forwards, the thick fogs around him disperse as if showing this the way to where he must go. He walks to the way he was led to. When he reached the destination, what welcomed him was another figure of Xia Yi, but an adult form. This is the adult form of Xia Yi. No, it's more precise to call this man as Yi Xiajia, as it is his name. Gue Lan uttered his name unconsciously, Axia. Chapter 71. 4.9 Third Blue Star. Xia Yi's Soul Domain 2. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 71. 4.9 Third Blue Star. Xia Yi's Soul Domain 2. Xia Yi's Soul Domain. When Gue Lan saw the adult man sleeping and chained, especially his appearance, he could help but uttered a name unconsciously, Axia. Just based on his reaction, Gue Lan obviously knew that man before him. The chains were connected in all corners of the domain, but the fogs in the place made it unable to see the exact location where the chain ends. Gue Lan continues to watch the chained man before him. There's only a meter distance before the adult and the child. The adult man before him had chains on both his wrist and ankles, even on his neck. He is seated on the lava-like floor, crossed legs, and his eyes are closed. His combed-up, long black hair scattered on his back down to the floor. His closed downturned-shaped eyes made him look like he is in a deep serene sleep. With a small mole under the corner of his left eye. Guilin, upon seeing the familiar features of his beloved, couldn't control his yearning and love for him. He walked urgently as he stood right in front of the sleeping figure. His current figure is enough to meet this man's height when he is seated properly. He is currently the size of a 6-year-old child, and the adult man before him estimated height is at 1.9 m. I called softly Guilin. He was about to reach out his hands to touch Yi Xiaojie's cheek when his wrist was suddenly grabbed. He could feel the strength tightening around his wrist. It was too much for his weak current self. Normally he wouldn't feel pain, but the only weakness of his bloodline finally showed. The one who grabbed his wrist is none other than Xie Yi. Xie Yi's current expression is scary. There was a deep frown on his forehead as his eyebrows were twisted in an ugly manner. His obsidian eyes were filled with anger and disbelief. Guilin can see emotions of blame and pain mixed within. He was startled to see Xie Yi. But his current expression made him guilty and a bit confused. He couldn't understand why Xie Yi looked like he was in rage. When he spoke, the usual doting and kindness in his voice was gone. There is only coldness and detachment in it. So. You know him. Is he the reason why you approached me? Is that it, Guilin? Asked Xie Yi. His fury is apparent in his tone. Guilin felt the pain in his wrist. He could even guess that it may be broken, but he didn't show the pain on his face. Though his breathing slightly ragged. He looked bewildered at Xie Yi. He could even feel slight fear for the first time in his life. Guilin stuttered in his words because he was nervous seeing his beloved's anger for the first time. I. What do you mean? He asked. Seeing Guilin's slightly frowning eyebrows, obviously because of pain, Xie Yi felt something pricking his heart, but his anger was too much that he ignored the pain he's currently inflicting to the boy before him. He pulled the person before him and glared at him to show how immense his anger is. He was in disbelief. Thinking that Guilin only approached him because of that person he found in his soul domain. He knew who that man was. This person has been with him since he was born. He is a person born with 2 souls in his body, but for some reason, even having 2 souls within him, there is no burden in his vessel, which is why he thought that this man is only a part of his imagination. An imagination of his future self, but this man looks different from him. Until this man woke up one day in one of his dreams. He spoke with him. He told him that his name is Yi Xiaojie. He told me that I am Xie Yi, but at the same time not. We've talked about everything. He taught me how to control my ability so I wouldn't go insane because of it. He listened to all my mourns and complained with an emotionless face. He told me that there is no need to force myself to like someone else because that is impossible to fulfill. He said there is no way I would fall in love with someone else except for one person. He told me to wait until that person came. He told me that the person who will become the most important for me will exist in the future, and thus I waited. Waited and waited until I met Guilin. Then I understood what he means by saying he is my precious person. After meeting Guilin in his soul domain, I tried entering mine. After successfully entering my own domain, I saw him once again. His existence in my soul domain shocked me. I thought he was someone who existed in my dreams to guide me to the correct path until I saw him once again in my own domain, only in deep sleep. He wouldn't wake up no matter what I do. Though sometimes even if he is asleep I could feel his emotions following with me. The emotion of longing and endless care. Happiness when seeing Guilin smiles at him. Distress when seeing Lanner sad or tired. Anger and jealousy when someone tries to touch him or take his attention away from him. My emotions and feelings only come out when Guilin is involved. It was a fresh feeling. New and somewhat comfortable. It made me feel human. I hate seeing Guilan cry. I am even more afraid that he will suddenly disappear on me. Lately there's an intuitive sensation in my mind giving a bad feeling. That if Guilan suddenly left my side I would never see him ever again. Fear spreads in my whole being. It was so overwhelming that I could only stick as much as I could to Guilan. Not leaving his side even for a second. I'm afraid that when I close my eyes he will be gone. But when I saw Guilan appearing in my soul domain reaching his hand towards that person, even calling his name with the same tone and voice when he called mine made me feel angry. I felt anger towards Guilan for the first time. My mind was clouded so much with fury that I didn't even notice that I was hurting him. Because the pain I'm currently feeling is like I was betrayed. It was so painful I could hardly breathe. Xie growled, "You called him Axia. Why do you call him such? Why do you know his name? Do you know who he is? Tell me. Tell me Guilan." "You're hurting me," replied Guilan, but he didn't dare to use force as he sways his grabbed wrist after all the pain is too excruciating. "I know him. You know him as well. I didn't approach you because of him. I don't be angry." "You're scaring me," said Guilan as he could feel his tear converging in the corner of his eyes. After all this is the first time he experienced his beloved's anger. It was too frightening and disheartening. He couldn't understand why he is angry at him. Is there something wrong with Yi Xiajie and Xie Yi? But they are both the same person. Seeing the tears in the corner of Guilan's eyes, Xie Yi's anger lessened a bit but it didn't diminish. He only roughly let go of Guilan's wrist which warranted a grievous moan from Guilan. "You are a liar. Like the rest of the people. You've never loved me at all." "L'honneur," grumbles Xie Yi as he averts his eyes from Guilan. Not wanting to see him at all. He thought that like how Xie Yi likes only Guilan and that the latter would only like him. But that yearning and hot gaze when he saw Yi Xiajie is too much to bear. Guilan's gaze at that time is too sentimental, even more so when they've seen each other in Guilan's soul domain for the first time. He felt very uncomfortable in his heart when he saw him. Feeling dark emotions like anger and jealousy was new to him. Xie Yi doesn't understand how to control it. He could only see Guilan in his fury. Guilan looked at Xie Yi bewilderedly. Do you not know him?" he asked. "I know him. He had always been with me since I was born," replied Xie Yi. "Then do you know what his connection to you is?" He is very related to you. I will tell you everything I know. Everything you wish to know. I will not lie a single word. Believe this time, okay?" Said Guilan. Meanwhile in his mind, System U is about to go ballistic in trying to stop his host from breaking the rules. His host is able to OOC, out of character, but he is not allowed to share higher realms information to an outsider, especially to an original resident who hasn't even reached ascension. "Host, please stop. You cannot tell him any information about us or the system. You are going to get punished." "Host, the penalty in violating the divine laws is soul punishment. You'll get a soul injury." "It's fine. I can heal it through meditation in the system space," replied Guilan in his mind. "But with an injured soul, your vessel will weaken and you won't be able to spend a lifetime in this world by then." Guilan was a bit silent for a short moment before he asked, "With an injured soul, how long could I stay in this star, you?" "It will be based on the degree of your injury. But if the host's injury is fatal, then you could stay for half a century." "Host, please think seriously about this." Guilan replied, "Half a century is enough to spend happiness by his side. It is harder for me to lie to my love instead. I've decided you. I don't think your husband would like that. When he complains to you, just say that it was his fault. Tell him I won't forgive him if he suddenly leaves this world without completing his goal of gathering the world's energy." I understand, host." Guilan walked towards Xia Yi, who was avoiding him. Used his other unharmed hand to reach out for him. But Xia Yi avoided his touch and gave him a glare before moving away from Guilan. Such avoidance gave Guilan the feeling of immense distress for the first time. He was shocked, speechless. He controlled his voice from trembling and took back the hand he outreached towards Xia Yi. With awkwardness and trembling in his tone, Guilan speaks. Guilan stilted for a moment, but he did what he said he would. Then you can listen to my explanation. Whether you believe it or not will depends on you, said Guilan. Guilan lowered his gaze, completely avoiding Xia Yi's eyes as he walked away and made a clear distance between them. Xia Yi, who saw Guilan walking away, couldn't be helped by reaching out his hands, but lowered after a while. Guilan walked towards Yi Xiaojia's figure, looking at him at the distance. Just looking as he speaks non-stop, explaining everything to Xia Yi. He told him everything without hiding anything. That Yi Xiaojia is him. That this is the fourth world they've been together. He let Xia Yi meet his System U, whom he asked to materialize. System U reluctantly showed himself in his moon avatar form while hovering around his host, intending to protect him this time if Xia Yi suddenly intends to harm his host. Guilan also explained the existence of world hoppers and such. He told him everything down to every detail. He left nothing unsaid, especially about Xia Yi's real identity. His identity and the relationship between them. Of course, there is no way Xia Yi would understand everything, as he is only a 9-year-old young boy. But Xia Yi decided to remember every single word. So when the time comes that he could understand it, then he would know how he should act towards Guilan. That's everything, said Guilan. An obvious frown is evident on his childish face. Then you are older than me, asked Xia Yi. Well, the soul is as old as this one, but few years younger. Guilan pointed at Yi Xiaojia. But my current body is younger than yours. Just think what you wish to. Decide what you want to do. I will give you all the time in the world. Make a choice on whether you wish to stay by my side or not. Just look for me when you made your decision. I will keep my distance until then, said Guilan as he suddenly walks away from Xia Yi's line of sight. Xia Yi didn't stop him. There are so many things he needs to digest and too many things he couldn't understand. Until he comprehends everything, he won't be able to treat Guilan the same way as before. He stayed in his soul domain for a bit longer to think while Guilan opened his eyes in reality. When Guilan opened his eyes, revealing a pair of deep blue-green eyes, he gently pried the arms around him. He slowly laid Xia Yi on his bed and tucked him in his bed with delicate movements. With a slight sad smile on his face, he kissed Xia Yi's forehead and before preparing to leave the bed. Guilan whispered, "Good night, After a while Guilan left the bed preparing to take a shower. Before he could enter the bathroom, his friend asked him a question of worry. Li Xing asked, "Is Xia Yi alright, Alan?" He got too many things to think about and told him to leave him alone for a bit. "But don't worry, he is okay," replied Guilan. "I see. Are you alright, Alan? You look a bit pale," asked Di Zheng. "No worries. Just a bit tired." "Su Luan, that's the story. So Yunli shares the bed with Su Luan, okay," said Guilan. "I understand, cousin. Don't worry," replied Yunli respectfully. "You guys should take a rest. Tomorrow will be different than before," said Guilan before heading to the bathroom to take a shower. Bathroom. The sounds of endless water falling echoes inside the room. There's a bit of steam spreading inside the place. Under the running water from the shower, Guilan, who is still wearing his clothes, is seated within the bathtub covering his mouth with his hand as he was coughing so loudly. But thanks to the sound of water, most of the coughing sound was masked by it. Cough. 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 The last cough from Guilan was a bit too much than the rest. As soon as he coughed loudly at the last, what comes out of his mouth isn't only sound but a large mouthful of blood. He could hear Yu's voice resounding in his mind. Host, are you alright? The penalty was dealt upon you as soon as you've left the soul domain. Would the host like to redeem? There is no need. The pain is bearable. Don't worry, I won't die, Yu, replied Guilan, who closed his eyes under the raining water above him. He wanted to control his emotion. He thought he could, but he couldn't. Those eyes are full of hatred and distrust. The avoidance of his touch and such desolation. Cold treatment and distress. He saw all of it when Xia Yi looked at him. It was too much for him to bear. To see the man he loves the most look at him with those kinds of eyes. It's too overwhelming for him. As if his heart was plucked out from him and he saw it get trampled upon. An unimaginable pain. Just too much for Guilan to be able to ignore it. When Guilan finishes his bath, the light in the room is turned off. The others in the room aside from him are asleep. As he approached his bunker, he saw that Xia Ye's former sleeping position changed. Before he left, he laid him properly on the bed, but this time Xia Yi is facing the wall, showing on his back figure to Guilan. Aye. Guilan didn't pause his words and didn't continue until a few minutes of silence. Sleep well, said Guilan before climbing up to sleep on his bed. The upper bed above Xia Ye's. Without him knowing, Xia Yi, whose eyes were closed just now, suddenly opened. He was silently listening to the sound made by Guilan climbing up on his head until he laid down. He frowned a bit when he heard him cough for a while before he could hear him breathing in a quite ragged manner. Those crimson eyes sometimes glint with worry, but Xia Yi didn't do anything aside from listening. Only when Guilan had fallen asleep for real did Xia Yi once again close his eyes, intending to sleep for that evening. Chapter 72. 4.10 Third Blue Star. Distance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Morning. In room 0373, for the first time something weird had happened. Guilan, who always wakes up last among everyone in the room, had woke up ahead of everyone else and left the room on his own. When the other woke up, the first one to react seeing that someone is missing is Li Xing. Li Xing looks around. When the person he is looking for is not around, he asks the person who is supposed to have the closest relationship to the missing person. Xia Yi, where's Alan? He asked, but Xia Yi only gave him a split-second glance before heading to the bathroom. Don't know, replied Xia Yi before entering the bathroom, ignoring everything else. His reaction left Li Xing astonished. There's a sudden silence inside the room. He looked at everyone and saw that Yi Zheng was stiffly changing his clothes as he just finished taking a bath. Li Xing stood up to help him with his buttons. What is wrong with Xia Yi? Did he get in a fight with Alan? He asked. That. I don't know. Woo that. He was scary, axing, said Yi Zheng as he suddenly hugged Yi Zheng while crying. Li Xing, who couldn't understand a thing, was suddenly hugged but still pats the back of the crybaby. What's wrong with you? Asked Li Xing worriedly. Yunli and Su Luan, who had watched everything on the sidelines, commented. Su Luan smirked at them and said, that fool, he tried to grab Guilan, who was about to leave to eat breakfast, and was glared. Then he greeted Xia Yi as soon as he woke up. Then he got glared at for the second time. Cousin's mood is not good. Every time he is in a bad mood, I advise no one to talk to him. He won't treat you as human if you insist. As for the other one, you've seen yourself, said Yunli, who is waiting for Su Luan to get ready for breakfast. Cafeteria. When the rest of the members reached the location, they saw Guilan was eating slowly at their usual table. Even when he saw their group's arrival, Guilan's mood remained cold and just gave them a glance before he resumed eating his breakfast. Everyone joined the table he was seated in, but the one who usually sits beside him was changed from Li Xing and Xia Yi to Li Xing and Yunli. As they eat their meals, most of the members sneak a peek at two people, Guilan and Xia Yi. Except for the sound of their utensils clashing, there is nothing but silence on their table. Among the rest only Yi Zheng's stares are so obvious that everyone else wanted to hit him. Li Xing could only pinch his side to stop him. Yi Zheng twisted his body in pain but stifled his painful groans. Then they heard Guilan tap on the table, taking everyone's attention, and looked at him. But Guilan didn't meet anyone's gaze, looking at his cup of milk in his hands. Then tapped his temple, a sign signifying that he will be activating the group mental link. So everyone can ask a question in their mind. The connection is activated even for the 3 adults of their group, though they were in their office instead of the cafeteria. Telepathic conversation. Members of Room 0373, Agent K, Agent Q and Professor Sen, Gui. You guys have spoken with Professor Sen before. So I will just remind everyone that for the experiment I had arranged that everyone will be put in the same laboratory led by either Uncle Ku, Uncle Lin and Professor Senator. I've put the group to be listed in group experiments for this week instead of getting separated for individual ones. As for the rest, it will be explained when we meet the adults in the laboratory. Any questions? A warning if someone asked a nonsensical question, prepared to get hit. Agent K, Agent Q and Professor Senior. Yun Li, Su Luan and Li Xing. Xia Yi. Silly Yi Zheng. Then I won't ask anymore. Gui. You only need to bear for 4 days. End of telepathic conversation. Members of Room 0373, Agent K, Agent Q and Professor Sen, as everyone expected, the children were once again gathered in the gymnasium. This time there are scientists and staff waiting for them in front. 2 lists were projected on the screen in front of them. One with individual names of the children, while the other is a list of groups depending on the group's room number. On the stage, a fat middle-aged man that was called Dean held the microphone as he stood at the center. The Dean spoke, "Good morning, my dear sub. I mean children. This is your Dean speaking. So today is finally the day. Though it was postponed thanks to some naughty children. Those children should have learned their lessons by now. Okay, let's begin. As you can see, there are 2 lists on the screen. One for individuals and the other for groups. My smart sub. Children, go ahead and check your names or room number on it. The location was also hinted, but we can go there after splitting everyone into 2. Those whose names were listed on the individuals list to the right please, and the others to the left. Begin." After the Dean finished speaking, the children checked the lists and separated accordingly. Li Xing asked Yi Zheng to double-check if their room number is on the second list while they wait to avoid crowding with the other children on stage. Waiting for a while, a confused Yi Zheng returned to their group. Everyone could see he was thinking of something weird again. Li Xing asked, "As what's wrong? Is our room number not on the list?" Yi Zheng shook his head, "No. It's there, but," then he looked at Guilan weirdly before continuing what he wanted to say. Guilan's name was mentioned as an exception instead. It says everyone in room 0373 except Guilan. Everyone's eyes widened as they all looked at Guilan, whose expression remained calm as ever, though his usual trademark sly smile is nowhere to be found. Why? Yunli was surprised. This is the first time they've seen Yunli lose his control over his emotions. Even Su Luan is showing an extremely ugly expression on his face. But among them no one else had enough courage to ask the reason why Guilan was separated. "Why? Are you doing it on purpose?" asked Xia Yi, who grabbed Guilan's shoulders. Guilan's eyes squinted, but only for a moment. He removed the hands on his shoulder, but his expression this time is no longer calm but icy. "I was supposed to be included in the group list, this is the truth. But it seems they decided to move my name to the individual list instead. I have few guesses, but the most considerable reason must be what happened 3 days ago. If not that, then it must be because I didn't eat my greens and carrot this morning. Throw it in the trash bin, I guess," said Guilan as he avoided meeting Xia Yi. He is obviously distancing himself from Xia Yi as the latter wanted, but this apparent action of ignoring made Xia Yi feel extremely uncomfortable. Though his stubbornness got beyond his control, he chooses to keep the distance they have now as he is still confused about everything. Why didn't you just force yourself to eat those things? It's just vegetables, said Su Luan. I never force myself to like something I hate. I normally don't compromise, though there are some exceptions. Don't worry about me. The group mental link will be online until I feel asleep tonight. Uncle Lin just spoke to me in my mind just now. It seems you were located in his lab today. See you later, said Guilan as he separated from the group and went to the right side of the place. The group only watched as Guilan left the group and headed to the side of individual listed subjects. The group was escorted to the location where the experimentation of hearing is done. Once they entered the laboratory, they saw a few more groups aside from them. The other groups were led by other scientists like Agent Q, Lin Yi. Lin Yi led them in the corner with an obvious frown on his face. Telepathic group link. Online, Lin. Where's the young master? Li, he was transferred to the individual list. Lin. Impossible. I made sure that every single one of you would be placed here with me. Su. He didn't eat his veggies and got transferred to the other list as punishment. Lin. Oh God, why? Senior, isn't the Lord normally like this? Ku. Pft, Year, don't worry about the young master. He can handle himself. Just look after the brats with you instead. Lin. Fine. Children, I will secretly pass a tablet to you each. Once the light turns off, immediately take the tablet discreetly. It will knock you out instantly for exactly 8 hours. That's the duration of this whole experiment. As only as you lose consciousness, it wouldn't affect you at all. As you will only be affected if you're awake and hear the frequency. Remember, as soon one of you guys woke up, try to wake up the others before the lights were once again turned on. They on your way out just act that something seems wrong with your ears and are done. Understand? Li, Yun and Yi. Yes. Xia and Su. After a while the children were asked to enter a glass-made room while the rest of the scientists waited outside. Once the members of Group 0373 entered, Su Luan and Yunli led the team in the farthest corner of the room away from the walls where the speakers were connected. An announcement that the experiment will begin was heard in the room before the lights turned off. Su Luan spoke with the other. Su Luan said, I wouldn't stop you if you wish to experience this experiment for a bit before taking the tablet. But Xiao Zhe and Xiao Xing, I suggest you take it as soon as the lights are turned off. This experiment is like giving the subjects the feeling of something directly drilling on your head. Since it's sound waves, even if you cover your ears it won't cover the waves at all. Covering the ears will lessen the sound, but just a bit. Thought. Very bit. It's a ringing pain, as if making you feel that your head is splitting. It will be hard not to scream in pain, said Yunli. The story experience of both Yunli and Su Luan are legit, which is why this frightened Li Sheng and Yizheng badly when they heard about it. They too held each other's hand looking for support. Su Luan obviously held Yunli's hand even before they entered the glass room. It can be seen that Su Luan's greatest mental support was Yunli's presence. They were both for each other, and the same thing for Li Sheng and Yizheng. Within the group only Xia Yi doesn't have someone by his side. No. He had one, but he chose to put a distance between them because he thought the other person betrayed his feelings and that he wasn't loved at all. His mind is blanked for a moment while looking at his own hand, empty of the usual warmth he used to possess. In his dazed, Xia Yi forgot to take the medicine that will knock him immediately after intake. The light inside the room had turned off without him noticing. There is a loud ringing on his head as if an activated alarm is ringing non-stop just beside his ears. The pain made him feel that his eardrums were about to explode. He started to feel dizzy as if he experienced a huge rock falling directly on his head. He couldn't help but hold his head between his hands and squeeze it. His friends had long fainted after taking the tablet, only he in his daze forgot the right time to take the medicine. In his mind he could hear a voice telling him to take the medicine, but as if there is a film in his head blocking the words, he couldn't understand the words at all. Telepathic conversation. Members of Room 0373, Agent K, Agent Q and Professor Sen, Lin. Xiaoyi, eat the tablet. Eat it already. Ku. Fuck. What the hell is wrong with this brat? Why didn't he take the damn tablet? Senior, I think he must have forgotten it. Could he even hear our voice? He seems to be in trance. Gui. Xiaoyi, eat the tablet now. Because Xiaoyi seems unable to hear the words properly, Gui Lan could only bet that by using his other ability within his telepathic ability that Xiaoyi would be able to get out of his trance. Xiaoyi can feel and hear only the almost endless ringing in his head, as if his head cleared up when he heard the familiar voice of Gui Lan. Though the voice he heard just now had a commanding tone, it was enough to wake him up back to reality. With hands slightly trembling he took out the tablet in his pocket and waited for a few more seconds, wanting to hear more of Gui Lan's voice. Gui. Eat the tablet and don't choose to suffer, I. When his name was called, a smile unexpectedly surfaced from the corner of his lips. He closed his eyes, imagining that he could see Gui Lan before him. Gui. Good night, I. Only then did he swallow the medicine and fall asleep like the rest of the members of their group. Seeing the whole group asleep, Lin Yi, who was witnessing the whole scene from the outside, thought that Xiaoyi would go insane because of this experience. Not only did he ignore their voices just now, his expressions from the perspective of the third party made it think that he was going to squeeze his head and was about to hit his head on the walls like the others. Thankfully Gui Lan spoke to wake the latter up on time. Meanwhile, in another laboratory, Sen felt that the group link was cut off without any message from the Venerable Lord. This left him a feeling that something must have happened. He consulted with his system about this problem. System. The mental link that Sire made was suddenly cut off out of nowhere. Can you check on him for me? Just a peek will do. Fine. Checking in progress. Request for connection from System EXE13. First attempt failed. Attempting for the second time. Second attempt failed. Attempting for the third time. Third attempt successfully. You have received an SOS telepathic message from Gui Lan. Do the host wish to hear the message? Go. Let me hear the contents, replied Senior L.RG. SOS telepathic message from Gui Lan played. Gui. Sen, come over to my location. To be continued. Chapter 73. 4.11 Third Blue Star. Backlash. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After Xiaoyi successfully missed the bad ending where he would suffer the whole day with his ears ringing as if an excavator was right beside his ears working on a huge damn road. Because of his own mistake of not taking the medicine that will knock him out the whole day, he almost squeezed his head, with an end result of him bashing his own head on the glass walk like the other subjects inside the room with them. Thankfully, Xiaoyi woke up on time thanks to Gui Lan. While everything on the group side is fine, Gui Lan's situation doesn't seem that optimistic. Just the fact his soul is injured for going against the divine laws which caused for his current vessel to weaken down to the point it's already below a normal status. He was the only one among the group that had his ability activated the whole time. If not for his system's help controlling his thoughts not to be passed to others, that everyone on the other side of the link would have heard his screams just then. Gui Lan was already standing by the edge of the cliff that gauged the control of his ability to tolerate pain. His weakened soul made his originally healthy body weaker. His body's ability to naturally heal got even slower, and because of blood's lacking, his head was dizzy the whole time. If not for his high tolerance of pain, he would have lost consciousness already. Gui Lan's current location is the laboratory of sight. His location is the farthest from where the rest is. Moreover, as an individual subject, he is the only one inside the laboratory with just one scientist. It just happens that the scientist assigned to him today is sadly the lunatic dean of this psychopathic institute. In the beginning things in Guilan's side are going well despite his weakened state. He was able to avoid getting punished for guessing the things before him multiple times. He is an experimental subject for the experiment in sight. His head is covered in a helmet connected in wires. Both feet were bound on the chair, his eyes were blindfolded, only his hands were free to move. He was having fun playing as a subject that even his system disapproved, this kind of game where his host well-being is online. Host. Please stop playing like this. Your soul is badly injured. It's more than 50% damage. Your current vessel is too young for me to begin the upgrade process. Even if I begin it right now, it will take years, not only because your soul is injured, you are even overexerting your body. Your body will collapse, host. Calm down, you. It won't collapse. I was circulating chi in my body to keep it barely usable at minimum. Replied Guilan. In this state, if the host used the limit breaker skill card to fight your enemies, then you can forget living for half a century, living for more than a decade seems more plausible instead. Guilan sighed, I'm glad you don't have a crow mouth. Then suddenly he heard Xia screams from his mental link of their group. He was in immense pain as one could hear the agony in his voice. What the hell is happening on his side? Asked Guilan worriedly. He didn't take the tablet that will knock him out at the exact moment it was needed to. Now he is currently suffering the experiment in hearing without protection because he was caught off guard. What is wrong with him? To make such kind of mistake. What should I do now? Can an ability be used within an ability? Are you trying to use authority while your telepathy skill is activated? It can be done, but you'll overexert your mental powers. There's even a heavy backlash after it. I suggest you do not do it, host. At your current state the damage percentage of your soul will just increase. Guilan never had hesitation when he made his decision. I remember that I still have 3 redemption tickets, right? Use that to exchange things that will prevent my mind from breaking from the backlash. I will activate authority in the group mental link to forcefully awaken Host, this can only be done once or else. I will just execute you and get over with this failed mission. You haven't even completed even one task yet, as the plot hadn't reached the beginning stages at all. You need to reach the age of 26 to start the plot. You're becoming nagging lately, Are you in menopausal age? You start having a short temper. Teased Guilan. Is a male. Why would I enter menopausal age? Host. Guilan laughed at him in his mind, fine, let's begin. For Xiaoye's sake, Guilan chose to overload his ability for the second time, but this time not only 1 but 2 mental type abilities. His telepathy and authority skills were used at the fullest for short seconds. It is normally impossible to use an ability inside an ability, especially mental types that can affect the person's mental state. But Guilan doesn't care, he didn't even think twice on whatever backlash he will get this time. His vessel's current state is the lowest and weakest physique our main character had on his ongoing world-hopping journey. Not only his injuries in his soul could not be cured inside this small star, as it was a punishment dealt to him by the origin of rules, the divine laws. Divine laws are the rules made by the 2 ruler gods of the highest state. These are the rules that even every deity and those above them must follow. Breaking the rules under this content will be immediately dealt upon by Origin's will. Even immortal gods couldn't escape this if they really went against it. The heaviest punishment under this rule is obliteration. Meaning there will be nothing left of you. Not a piece of flesh. Not a drop of blood. Even not a wisp of soul. Your very existence will be completely erased. You will no longer exist. God cultivates to exist forever, this is the heaviest punishment they could receive. Guilan successfully activated his 2 abilities and brought back Xia Yi in reality, but at the cost of his body's breakdown. After making sure that Xia Yi had fallen asleep, Gui Lan's telepathic link was instantly cut off as his vessel shut down. In short, he lost consciousness and the link in the body and soul was cut off. In his system's mind space, Gui Lan's soul form became pale and his fingers were a bit translucent. Host, the damage percentage of your soul had reached 60%. The redemption tickets were all used up for buying 3 high-level soul stabilizing stones. I've left it all in your soul domain. You need to enter deep sleep soon. How long can this body keep awake? Asked Gui Lan. 5 days at most. 2 days at least. But if you use the skill card in this state, after using it you'll enter deep sleep for a long few years. Even after waking up your body would only be able to last for at most 15 years. 5 years at the latest if you keep overusing your abilities. Unless you upgraded your body's physique. Gui Lan's expression remained smiling as usual. Can you connect me to that world hopper whose vessel is called Sen Yu? Issuing connection to his system in progress. Connection approved. A short telepathic message could be sent once. I've also put the Dean into an illusion realm for this whole day. Thank you, Yu. Said Gui Lan. SOS telepathic message from Gui Lan, Gui. Sen, come over to my location. Experimental building. Site department room number 333. Hide my body for a bit. I overdid it. Don't inform the children but inform the agents. End of SOS telepathic message from Gui Lan. Professor Sen, who suddenly received that kind of message from Gui Lan from his own system, shocked him. He would never have expected that the venerable lord they just saw a few days ago would be in such a state. Sen left the laboratory he is in by saying that the Dean is summoning him. He knew that Dean's favorite lab in the site department is the room 333 where that venerable lord was dragged to. Just when the group link was suddenly cut off just now, he knew something bad happened. Following the message, he went straight to where the location is supposed to. Upon arriving at the location and entering room 333, what welcomed Sen is a bloody mess. The Dean is moving around the laboratory while laughing. His figure is like a child chasing after a butterfly hovering around. At the center he saw Gui Lan's small body leaning lifeless on the chair. Blood flows out from his orifice, pale from lack of blood, and he totally loses consciousness. He started panicking around when he saw this scene. What should I do? Asked Senior. System EXE-13 had tampered the recordings on the way back to your room. He also controlled the hallway and elevator security, which will not allow you to bump into any other staff. He said to hide his host's body for a few hours while it was under treatment. Sen, bewildered, asked, treatment? I don't have healing skills on me. The host doesn't need to worry. We are not asking you to do such an almost impossible thing for a clumsy human as yourself, my host. You've been bullying me lately ever since your upgrade system. Yes. What can you do about it? Sen was speechless in what his system just said. I only need to hide him in my room for a bit, asked Senior. Changed location. Bring the venerable lord back to room 0373 instead. Okay, replied Senior. As Professor Sen approached the small blood figure laying on the chair chained, he saw the small body of a young child, feeble and pale, bleeding from his orifices. There are blood trails from the corner of his eyes, on his ears and nose. This child's features are still immature, but one could see he will grow up into a flawless beauty given in time. But he looks so delicate, as if he would take his last breath at any time. System, why is he like this? According to what the Lord's temporary system said, it seems that Lord had overdone himself this time. For some reason he received a punishment from the divine laws. Soul injured at the extent his vessel weakened in such a state, and then pushing his vessels to utmost limit by forcing another mental type skills within another skill. This kind of move usually leaves a bad backlash to the body. The fatigue his vessel could bear overloaded, and he was forced to enter deep sleep. He should be able to wake up tomorrow if he forces himself to. The Venerable Lord said to not say a thing to the children. There should be no reason for him to save those children. They are just part of the data of this world. Isn't that how most those on top treats mortals from the lower plane usually do? He is weird. Murmured Senator. This time the one who answered this question is no longer his own system but someone else. It was Executioner 13 who knew the meaning of his host's actions. Never think of my host as kind. I haven't met someone else crueler and colder than he is. That night if your system didn't give my host the answers he wanted, you would be dead that day. Sen remained in silence as he reminisced of the scene that night he first met the Lord. Eyes cold as ice. Detached and aloof as nothing could enter his sight. Everything is fleeting under his gaze as if he is the lone eternal in time. He can understand that every word that was said is true. The Venerable Lord is indeed a cruel and merciless person. Then why would he even put his current vessel in line for these original resident children? They had nothing to do with him or his mission at all, retorted Senior. I am fair warning. As long the villain of this world remains alive, my host would not destroy this world. Remember. Sen carefully lifted Guilan from the chair. Slowly, gently and carefully as if carrying an extremely delicate and fragile luxurious jewel shard. Afraid that a single heavy touch could ruin everything. Dormitory room 0373. Sen placed Guilan on the nearest lower beds. He couldn't place him on his bed on the upper bunker in fear of inflicting more pain to the weakened vessel of the Lord. He could see that the white sheets of the bed were slowly tainting with crimson blood and the figure lying on the bed had its eyes closed as if only sleeping. I only need to put him here, asked Senior. Yes, host. System EXE-13 said that he would wake up on his own. You don't have to worry about it much. The Venerable Lord says that he would reward you when he woke up. Let's go, host. Okay, replied Sen before taking one last glance on the sleeping figure covered in blood on the bed as he took his leave. Few moments after the pair of host and system left the room. System, you made sure to lock the door from the inside until the other children returned. He also made sure that the bed and his host vessel remained clean without any speck of blood on them. Then he went back inside and continues to watch over his host's spiritual body in the mind space, who is currently meditating to suppress his injuries in the soul. As the punishment he was bestowed upon for violating a rule under the divine laws could not be healed no matter what he does in this world, Guilan's current vessel's lifespan was greatly affected because of this. As for how much, only his host knows how long he could live his life inside this star. The host is willing to injure even his soul just to protect the Lord's soul fragment, while the Lord had fragmented his soul just so he could follow after the host. I really couldn't understand why these two choose such a risk method to take the other's attention. Isn't it better to just talk it through with each other instead? Though the problem is, would these two be willing to lay out their honest feelings for each other despite of everything or anything that may affect them? Isn't it because they couldn't, that this situation is the result of their choices? Chapter 74. 4.12 Third Blue Star. Authority. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Systems Mind Space. At the black space with nothing on it, Guilan in his real soul appearance is seated on nothing in a lotus position with his eyes closed. He is in a state of meditation. Around him 3 white crystal stones are hovering around him, giving the feeling of pure energy to help cure the soul. These stones are called soul stones. These are special stones that can help promote or suppress injuries within a soul. After a few hours one of the white stones crumbles into dust and disappears. Its effect was used up and the host at the center slowly opened his eyes. Unlike his flickering unstable soul state before, his current state is a little better. It's no longer flickering despite his weakening state. Guilan looks at his fingers' slight transparency. This signifies that his soul state is no longer normal. But the chi in this star is too scarce and his punishment is still ongoing, making him unable to use his chi to heal his abnormal soul state. Host, how are you feeling? The current percentage damage in the soul is stabilized at 46% thanks to the soul stone. But this is only a temporary suppression. As long as your soul stays within this star you would never be able to completely recover and your vessel's lifespan is greatly affected by this. I understand. You shouldn't worry much about it. Don't tell him if he ever asks why. Said Guilan while giving hints to his system that he already knew that he had conversation with his husband a few times in the former worlds and he just turned a blind eye on them. Host, are your? Guilan just gave him a smile, not much. I had few speculation of things. Don't get too bothered by it. I'm going to wake up now. He said before taking his leave to this mind space and wake up in reality, leaving alone his system in his silence. When Guilan opened his eyes the lights inside the room turned off. It's very dark in the area. As he looks around, he felt something was wrapped around his body making unable to move. He saw an arm caging him from where he is laying. He couldn't move as his arms were caught in it as well. It was Xia Yi, who returned to their dormitory with the rest of the members, holding him in his sleep. Guilan tried prying the arm around him at first, but his current vessel's strength is now even less than what his age could normally possess. Struggling for a few times, he could only give up when he felt he moved too much and accidentally woke Xia Yi, who was resting beside him. Thankfully his system cleaned up everything for him, leaving no traces of blood that his body had excreted from when it overloaded his abilities and suffered backlash. He could only move his body a bit and make it so his position is facing Xia Yi, who is in his deep sleep. Seeing that there are no visible effects found on Xia Yi's appearance that he had suffered from that accident during the experiment this morning made Guilan glad. He observes the silently sleeping figure of Xia Yi until he got tired himself. Currently his body is too weak and needs more rest than an average child because of his injured soul. Guilan quietly yawns as he feels sleepy at the moment. After feeling satisfied with watching Xia Yi in his sleep, Guilan gives the child a small, fleeting kiss in between his eyebrows. He murmured, "It's good that you're unhurt." "Good night, said Guilan before hugging the child back and entering his sleep for a while more. This is how they usually sleep at night, except for last night when he and Xia Yi got into a small quarrel of misunderstanding. As Guilan expected, a child's temper is only a short fuse and Xia Yi is unwilling to be separated from him for a long time. A day is his limit. Thinking about this, Guilan entered his deep sleep as he was really tired of what happened this whole day. Even though the backlash he suffered from before is suppressed, the injuries in his soul are still there. Moreover, there is nothing he could do about it. He willingly indulges all of this child's selfishness. This is because he knew that their time together had long run out since that day he saw those future sights. Once Guilan entered his slumber, the child whom he was hugging suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of garnet orbs which seems to glint in slight hints of light. These crimson orbs observe Guilan, observing him intently. There are clear emotions of worry and distress within those garnet irises. Xia Yi's thoughts while watching Guilan in his sleep. His eyes had marks of fatigue. Face is pale as if close to being bloodless, like those mythical creatures called vampires in the stories. Moreover, the temperature of his body had greatly lowered as there isn't enough life to support the body. His current state is abnormal. Guilan usually only needs to sleep enough like a normal person does, but lately he needs a longer nap time and feels sleepy most of the time. But despite taking a long rest, he still looked so tired when he woke up. What is happening without me knowing something? This is giving a very uncomfortable feeling. Like he would be leaving me soon. This kind of thought swims endlessly in his mind. Xia Yi could not do anything about this uneasiness in his heart. All he could do is to keep this person by side at all times, just in case this person will suddenly leave without his permission. Just the thought of this person leaving gave him a feeling that he would never see him again unless he allowed him to. To prevent that, he must always make this person happy, not bored, and always have his fun in any way. He was very afraid at the thought of not seeing him, as if he had lost a sight of this person before. As a boy, Xia Yi could currently not understand the meaning of his heart's abnormal state. He had no experience of other things, and Gui Lan is the first person who became important to him. He is frightened that he will lose his precious person, his first friend and his first family. But despite the uncomfortable feeling in his heart, he doesn't know how to stop it from hurting. As a child, the only action he could do is to not let go. As long as he doesn't let go, then this person wouldn't leave, would he? Xia Yi pulled Gui Lan closer to him, holding him tighter in his sleep, wanting to chain this person to himself for this lifetime. Even if you suddenly disappear, I will definitely find you. As long as I can find you, we will be together forever, whispered Xia Yi, but only the darkness seems to hear his words. When the sun had risen, everyone noticed that the relationship between Xia Yi and Gui Lan had returned to normal. Their sticky moments had gotten longer, though. Like conjoined twins unable to separate from one another. They are currently at the cafeteria eating breakfast. This morning when they woke up, Gui Lan had asked the adults in their group to move his name to be placed together with the rest of the members. Starting today, he will undergo the experiments with them as a group. In the middle of eating, Gui Lan is unable to use the spoon is holding, as the one beside him is feeding him using his own spoon. Alternating spoon feeding him and eating his part. Of course, everything he didn't like to eat was eaten by Xia Yi instead. Xia Yi had become even more caring towards him after their misunderstanding. He treated him as if he didn't know that the original age of this vessel is already in adult stages for unknown years. Eat a few more, Lana. You look a bit sickly lately, said Xia Yi, who is positioning a mouthful of food in front of Gui Lan. Seeing a small mountain of white rice and meat on the spoon, Gui Lan happily opened his mouth and allowed the spoiled child to feed him. Gui Lan, whose cheeks are bulging as he chews like a little hamster. I'm not sick. Just a bit more sleepy, as I've been using my ability for long periods of time. There is nothing wrong with me, he replied while pouting as if Xia Yi wronged him. Seeing Gui Lan pout, Xia Yi could only smile at him helplessly. Patting his back to calm his anger, Lana, anger is bad for the body. Humph, eat your own. Don't forget to eat this, that and those, said Gui Lan while pointing at all the dishes with vegetables on it. Especially those in green and orange in color. Green peas and carrots are top of Gui Lan's list of dislikes. Yes. I will eat it all for you, Lana, said Xia Yi while coaxing the angered child. After breakfast, the children entered that glass-made room once again, but this time Gui Lan is together with them. An additional subject entering the list made not apparent changes to the setting to the experiment in that laboratory of sounds. Though the number of children inside the room had reduced and some children had violent reactions as they were placed inside the glass room. This time some children were banding on the thick glass wall while crying. There's obviously traces of fear, fatigue and terror within their eyes. The experience they had undergone last night left some traumatic memories in their young minds. There are even some children who had gone hiding as soon as they were thrown inside the glass cage. Among the children, only Gui Lan's group entered the room without any struggling movements, but in the eyes of the scientists in the laboratory they thought that this group had long given up living and didn't pay more attention to this considered dead group. Inside the room, Su Luan took the lead of the group, trying to go to the corner of the room they occupied yesterday, but unfortunately they've entered the room late and someone group of children overtook it. Seeing their group approaching, some children from the opposite group bare their teeth on them in defense. Go away. We got here first. This is our place now. That's right. We came here first. The children from the opposite group shouted at them. Su Luan was getting angry but was stopped by his friend on time. You brats. Su Luan was suddenly grabbed on his shirt from the back by Yunli. Yunli spoke, calm down. Look for another place instead. Su Luan snorted angrily at the other children, you're lucky. After taking a different corner of the room, the position they choose is a bit closer from the wall of speakers while making the rest of the members frown. They haven't felt the full effect of the sound wave thanks to them losing consciousness because of the medicine they got from Lin Yi. But this time they were told that the management had made some changes to the sound waves and they didn't know if the medicine would be effective again this time. In the face of the question of what to do next, they all moved their eyes on Gui Lan's figure. After all, despite his age, no one really could deny the authority of his high intelligence quotient and aloof presence. Li Xing was the one who asked the group, "What should we go to Alan?" "Don't worry. I can solve it, but before I begin I want you guys to calm down and listen to my instruction," said Gui Lan. Everyone nodded in agreement to his words. This time their conversation was shared only in their group. Though they didn't use the mental link as usual, they lowered their voices enough only to be heard by them. Good. First off, after my abilities upgraded that day, I've awakened another ability. This ability is called Authority. It's an ability that will allow him to impose absolute commands upon any existence, even reality itself, explained Gui Lan. Yunli, absolute command. Is it only on living things? He asked, completely interested in his cousin's new ability. No. I have absolute command over all living things and non-living things. Even the reality itself. It's a higher version of mental ability if telekinesis, but in a form of command instead of just thoughts, replied Gui Lan. Xia Yi, who remembered what happened to him yesterday. So my body moved on its own yesterday because of this ability, he asked. Yes. I can even command the target to do something against his will unless the target's will is at the same level or stronger than mine. It is impossible to disobey my authority. Don't worry, it won't hurt, said Gui Lan while a mischievous smile on his face. The rest felt shivers on their skin when they saw him smile that way, as if he is having fun in the current situation. They couldn't understand fully where their fear came from, but Gui Lan's smile made them feel cold down to their spine. Then as soon as the lights turned off, Gui Lan used authority on them. The command's contents are: for the whole day you are now unable to hear any sound waves within this room. There is no effect on you and it will be like you are deaf. Chapter 75. 4.13 Third Blue Star. Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The lights inside the laboratory are all turned off. At the center of the room is a glass cage with children in it. No one outside the cage can hear any sounds coming from inside the glass cage, but every scientist could see the distorted expressions of the children inside the room. Few of them had long fainted, some had started going crazy, banging their heads on the cold floor or wall near them. Some children are shrieking with all they got, even not caring whether they will hurt their throat or lose their voice. It was like hell on earth for those children inside the glass cage. Bedo Dem Kulu, who was assigned in that room, watched the event unfolds before him with no expression on his face as he puffs his cigarette. He had witnessed this kind of scene endless times while being undercover. He had already numbed his face from showing his real emotions on it. After all, that was what he was trained for, but this didn't mean that he didn't care for the rest of the children at all. It's just that his current position is not even good enough to be able to save them. Moreover, the target mission of their task has been found. They've also gathered enough files to close down this damn institution. All they need is time, the best plan and an opportunity. The first two requirements had been fulfilled and the 3-1 is about to be fulfilled as well. This is all thanks to their young master. This young master whom the clan even sometimes treats as God thanks to his overwhelming intelligence. Now that Gui Lan even has a special ability, he is so sure that those old foggers in the clan would be even happier. But the problem is whether they'll be able to be this kind of young master. He is not a machine like the young master from before. He is now as sly as a little devil. Two-faced, and no one can really guess what it's in his mind. Only in front of Xia Yi that he acts like a human being. This mysterious feeling left him and Lin Yi speechless and bewildered. Though this kind of young master is better than before. At least he has feelings and emotions this time. It was what he thought until he witnessed the scene before him. The children inside the cage show all kinds of emotions and feelings whether it was hidden or not. Almost all the children inside express what they are currently feeling. Even for the first clearance pair like Yunli and Su Luan, despite them holding back their fear, one sees that Yunli greatly depended on Su Luan as he held on to him like the last straw of his life. Su Luan protects Yunli behind him whether it was a conscious action or not. No one knows, but he is truly determined to protect the one behind him. There is no need to mention Li Xing and Yi Zheng, who had hugged each other while hiding behind Xia Yi and Guilan. To them their greatest trust and dependence is the highest towards this pair. These two were the leader figures of their little group. Xia Yi on the other hand is calm, but despite of it No could see his gaze slightly trembling. There's a hidden fear in it. But as a leader, he didn't forget his place and took the lead in protecting the group. Only hugging Guilan in his arms securely, not letting anything to cause him harm. He placed Guilan where he feels it's very safe. Within his embrace nothing can bypass him. As long as he is alive no one is able to touch Guilan. That is the main reason for his protective gesture towards Guilan. But the main target of Kulu's gaze is that boy in Xia Ye's embrace. The child's eyes remain indifferent even with the countless scream of agony and suffering around him. He looks calm as a wind, like he is not seeing or hearing a thing. It just he doesn't care, that's all. It is scary enough that he is calm in this situation, but to act like nothing's wrong at all is impossible even for an adult like Kulu. Kulu might be fully trained as an agent, but he is still a human being. To treat other humans as nothing is completely impossible for him. But Guilan is different. Just his actions alone is enough for Kulu to understand that he doesn't care about anyone. He doesn't care about Yunli and Su Luan beside them. Not even a hint of tenderness for the pair, Yi Zheng and Li Xing, behind them. There is nothing at all. He just doesn't care. But only towards Xia Yi that a hint of tenderness comes out from him. With a small smile on face, Guilan enjoys the warmth Xia Yi is giving him. Within his protection he would be safe. Presently, Xia Yi is unharmed and nothing else matters. He doesn't need to make a move as long as there is nothing wrong with Xia Yi. Guilan would remain silent given that Xia Yi is not affected by anything. To Guilan, only Xia Yi's life is the most important out of everything. Given that Xia Yi is okay, then everything will be at peace. Kulu, who was watching from the distance, even forgot that he got a cigarette in his mouth and almost burned himself. "Scientist Ku, your cigarette is almost up," another scientist said to him. After thrashing his cigarette butt to his portable ashtray, he moves back his gaze to the young master. "Is this the young master's reverse scale?" murmured Kulu. All of the sudden Kulu heard the sound forcefully opening the door. As soon as he saw who it was, he was shocked to see that it was an acquaintance. Dragging with him his partner, Agent Q, after him. It was Professor Sen, looking around the place for him with urgency in his gestures. He even ignores the gazes around them. As soon as Sen spotted him he ran over with Lin Yi. "Kulu. Where is the Lord? Go find him." "There is a," but before he completed his words a loud sound of explosion was heard. Boom! The ceiling above the room had collapsed. Countless debris had started falling from above them. Seeing the whole floor falling on them and countless shards flying towards them, Kulu instantly hugged Lin Yi and pulled Professor Sen from the place. Lin Yi was frozen from seeing just a huge accident before him, while Sen communicated with his system in his mind, asking to protect the three of them. Few seconds before the explosion. Guilan's perspective. Inside the glass room, Guilan received a prompt from his system. Based on the content and tone of his system, the message is obviously for emergency. "Host, be careful. A powerful illegal world hopper is approaching this exact location. I will now prepare the skill card limit break for the host." It took a few seconds before the skill card got activated and only Guilan could use it. "An illegal world hopper?" asked Guilan in confusion. Host. It's a destroyer. His target is your. Seeing the adversity before them, Guilin activated the skill card and felt that all things that hindered his chi and suppressed all of his abilities had unlocked at this moment. But he didn't fully activate the skill card as he doesn't want his current vessel to fall apart before he could spend a lifetime with his lover. For the next 10 minutes Guilin had the strength of a high god, and in this A-class world he is invincible. A barrier made of ice protected the small group of children. His original members plus a few groups of children staying near them were partially protected. It was Guilin's intention to protect those small children, but it was not out of pity or sympathy. But because he cannot allow all the ability users that are supposed to support the protagonist Gong to die. Or else the whole plot would be gone. He hadn't spent enough time with his lover yet. He is even more unwilling to see his lover die before him. Even if the world plot is destroyed, it must be under the premises that his lover is uninvolved and is alive. As for the rest, he doesn't care what happens. The children who were about to accept death at that moment were shocked to see that they were suddenly protected by a barrier made of ice. Ice is one of the elements that our MC could control. He had absolute control over ice and blood. It is his original strength that was involved for ice-based ability. Looking around, the children saw the one who activated such overwhelming ability and protected them with it. The boy's figure is the smallest among them and his height made him even more petite. His skin is flawless and pale as snow. His hair is currently messy with dust but still looks soft with the same shade of sea and forest. Fluttering under the guidance of the wind, Guilin looks like a fairy to their eyes, especially when he saw his silvery orbs glowing with strength as he raised his hand to erect the wall of ice. Even Xia Yi and the rest of his group was shocked by what Guilin had done. They've never expected Guilin to have this kind of ability. They thought Guilin only had telepathy and authority as his abilities. While the rest was in shock of the events that unfolds before them, the three adults from their group ran towards them. Lin Yi and Kulu were shocked with what they were seeing. They've never expected that their young master didn't only have a monstrous intelligence but also a monstrous ability like this one. Among the three adults, only Sen could understand the current situation. "My lord, what are your orders?" asked Sen. He noticed that the venerable lord is willing to take responsibility for this destroyer. "Gather everyone alive at one place. I will teleport you in a place 100 kilometers away from here. Run away farther after that." "I will stop him here," replied Guilin as he ignored the gazes of everyone around him. "Of course, except for one person." Sen saluted before following the orders. "As you command," he said, while Lin Yi and Kulu followed the same command. They didn't ask questions as they were not in the right moment. They are still in danger as the person who attacked the place is still there lurking around. While the adults gathered the rest of the children alive in one place together with the rest of the other children from their original group, only Xia Yi remained standing where he was. He didn't want to move. It was not his wish or will to do so. He heard the conversation Guilin had with Professor Senator. With the information Guilin had explained to him before in his soul domain, he could understand most of it. He knew that he would get in the way. That he is weak. So weak that Guilin had to remain here to block the enemy for them, him. Xia Yi could only hold Guilin's hand tightly, intending never to let go. There is remorse and distress within his eyes as he held back his emotions. His eyes started to redden as he tried to hold back his tears from falling. Xia Yi knew that Guilin intended to stay here while the rest ran away. No one is strong enough to stay here with him and fight with him. Xia Yi is not enough. Even Professor Sen is not enough. No one is. Xia Yi understands this but is not willing. He doesn't wish to leave Guilin here alone to fight. But he knew that Guilin would never allow him to stay. They've stared at each other for a few seconds to a few minutes. Xia Yi's eyes were pooling with tears while Guilin only gave him a kind smile. A smile that comes directly from his heart. Guilin spoke, "You can't stay." Xia Yi bit his lower lips before replying, "I know. His voice chokes to hoarse. There are even few sobs in between his words. But I want to. Guilin still didn't agree. You can't stay, he said when suddenly his stomach churned as feels something stuck in his throat. In his mind his system speaks to him. Host, the damage percentage of your soul had stopped at 50%. Your internal organs start failing. You still have 7 minutes of card activation. The enemy is a destroyer with a cultivation of God state. Pukes blood. Suddenly Guilin puked out the mouthful of blood stuck in his throat. Scaring everyone else who saw his state. Everyone thought of one thing. This person is dying. Even Xiaoyi thought of such, and his tears fell as he was in shock to see his most important person suddenly puking lots of blood. He was speechless and didn't know what to do. He could no longer hold back his tears from falling uncontrollably. Lana! Exclaimed Xiaoyi as he held Guilin's shoulders in shock. With an alarm ringing non-stop in his mind that things couldn't go on like this. He tried waking up Yi Xiajie in his soul domain, but there was no response. Unfortunately, no one is there to guide him or tell him what he should do to save the person before him. After wiping the traces of blood from his mouth, Can you promise not to forget about me? Asked Guilin. Xiaoyi answered, I would never forget. In the future don't forget to look for me, okay? Said Guilin. Xiaoyi agreed without hesitation, I will find you. Lana, no matter where you are. I will find you, he said as he looked at the face of the person before him, remembering every single detail down to the smallest one. As if imprinting Guilin's appearance in his mind forever. Hearing his answer, Guilin grinned happily. He suddenly pulled Xiaoyi in one last hug. Then whispered, I will reward you plenty if you found me before others. In the last moment Xiaoyi felt a cold but soft thing landed on his left cheek under his left eye. But before he could react, Guilin had pushed him backwards towards the rest of them with a smile on his beautiful face. Find me soon, these are the last words he heard from Guilin before the scene before him distorted. The rest of those alive were transported 100 kilometers away from this place under Guilin's effort. It took a few minutes for him to complete a temporary teleportation array secretly. He pushed away Xiaoyi in it as soon as he activated the array. Chapter 76. 4.14 Third Blue Star. End of childhood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Once Xiaoyi disappeared from his line of sight, the smile on Guilin's face completely disappeared. There is no emotion on his face, only coldness and indifference. Within those silvery orbs are glints of hidden anger. Host, the array has been activated without any problems. They would randomly get teleported 100 kilometers away from here. I've made sure to separate Sen and Li Xing from the rest as you've requested. There is only 6 more minutes for activation of the skill card. I don't fucking care about that. Did you just say that this bastard is targeting my husband? What do you mean? Asked Guilin, but there's an obvious tone of anger in his cold voice. Yes. Because unlike the host and the rest of the world hoppers, your partner's soul fragments are not under the protection of a system. Destroyers hunt this kind of soul fragments for the nourishment of their cultivation. So he is here to kill your husband. System U gave an honest answer, as he has always been afraid of his host's anger. He knew what kind of effect his host's anger means. System U is not willing to get complicated or involved with his host's anger because of this foolish retard targeting his host's partner. Unlike this bastard, he still wanted to live. As soon as System U completed his explanation from above the hole on the ceiling of the institute, he saw a man who looks like he is in his mid-20s. Wearing an expensive-looking gray suit, he floats in the air as he looks down on Guilin. Hovering around him is his system with a form of glowing black ball. Xiao, ball, is this child the owner of the soul fragment that you felt before? The man in suit asked, but his system, as if struck in silence, didn't reply to him for the first time. After killing the former owner of Xiao, he had made sure to hack Xiao's database and put a virus on it, making sure he becomes Xiao's new host. They've been working together for hundreds of years, and this is the first time Xiao paused for a long time before stopping him. Xiao. Then he heard a childish voice, but the tone is extremely cold and sharp to the ears. Obviously the soul inside this child's body is not a real young soul, but like him a world hopper. Have you taken control over his system? Asked Guilan, but not in his mind but out loud, as there are no outsiders here. With the heavenly law's permission they are able to speak freely only for this moment. After all, Guilan needs to eliminate the trash before him. For a God-state opponent his high God cultivation is more than enough. Captured and forcefully shut down, host. The destroyer exclaimed in shock, what? That is impossible. Who the hell are you? He asked, but was ignored. Before the destroyer had thought of running away, Guilan suddenly appeared behind him and kicked him down to earth with a force enough to break his spine. A clear sound of bone-breaking echoes in the place. Plus the scream of pain and agony of the man who was kicked like a ball, now embedded on the surface of the earth. Good, there's still 5 more minutes. I just have to make sure that this guy's life is miserable for the next 5 minutes, he, said Guilan, as his words seemed more like a devil's whisper instead of a human's voice. System U could even feel himself shivering unconsciously. He let his host enjoy playing, torturing, with the enemy while he contacted his boss for an advance report about these criminals. Destroyers are criminal gods who have fallen from their pedestal and become an evil god. They couldn't accept that they failed the tasks given by the main god system and continue to go against the rules, becoming wanted fugitives instead. These criminals were gods who destroyed lower realm worlds for its world energy. But destroying worlds without permission from the ruler gods is one of the heaviest crimes in divine laws. Gods who violate this rule are hunted by higher-ranked gods whose cultivation is God King and above. They were dealt with death penalty without reason. For the next 5 minutes, the destroyer that was caught by Guilan had lived a living hell. Guilan didn't hold back at all. He used all means of torture that even gods is afraid of. In the first 2 minutes the destroyer felt how his 206 bones were broken one by one at a split-moment difference. After becoming a mollusk-like creature, the destroyer then felt his 7 trillion nerves rupturing all at the same time. He felt the unbearable pain of tearing after the pain of breaking. Though this is just a physical injury, for a god the pain is real. Moreover, the devil who is torture had a way to make sure he is alive even after doing all that. The destroyer looked at Guilan, who was now covered in his own blood, while smiling like a lunatic as he watched him. There's a huge grin on his exquisite face. Making feels like he is facing a madman who can express cruelty without mercy and with a smile. The physical pain only lasted for 2 minutes, but for the destroyer it almost felt like an eternity to him. When he thought that the lunatic was done with him, he once again heard his play voice. Guilan, I made sure you are still alive after all that. I mean, it will be a better experience to feel how your soul is torn apart while still alive. Don't worry, I will make sure you enjoy the last 3 minutes of your life, he whispered to the ears his toy, like a devil playing with his prey. Feeling fear overwhelmed his whole soul, the man screamed like he was being slaughtered. No, save me. No. Devil. You devil. HAA. This scream of agony lasted for the next 3 seconds while Guilan watched the soul of his enemy torn into countless small pieces, and once the soul was torn completely he even made sure that not even a single soul fragment escaped. He eliminated it and made sure it turned to nothingness. Host, the destroyer had been cleaned up. No, it's not. This is just a soul clone with half cultivation. The system you've caught must also be a dummy. Only when my anger cleared up that I noticed that this is nothing but a mere clone, said Guilan. System U, who had checked the captured system from the enemy just now, had really turned out to be a dummy. The destroyer had an original cultivation of God King, host. Must be. But since I've thoroughly destroyed his soul clone, half of his cultivation is gone. With a soul injury not worse than mine. He should be quiet for a few decades. I'll hunt him down when I wake up from my slumber. Once the skill card effect was used up, Guelan's silvery eyes returned to the normal color of blue-green hue. He once again coughed a mouthful of blood, but more this time than the first time. Coughed. Host. The soul damage percentage of your soul had reached 68%. You need to enter deep sleep right now. I know. I need to make preparation for the future while I'm asleep. Where is the location of this body's house? Asked Guelan as he nonchalantly wipes the residue of blood by the corner of his mouth. Northeast. Within the mountain lands in the boundaries of the Central City and Eastwood City. Where is I and the rest of them? Asked Guelan. Professor Sun together with Li Xing was teleported to 50 kilometers away from the Central City within Southwood City. The host's husband and the rest of the children were teleported from a city in the west. 60 kilometers away from the Central City. They need 3 days to arrive by car non-stop or commute for 5 days before reaching the Prime Minister's household. This is good for now. According to the original's memory, this father of this body seems to be the same type as my father from the last world. A doting type father is it? Said Guelan. Yes. The host is right. I found a quiet location for the host's slumber. I will now make preparation for it. Go ahead. I will go visit that father of mine first and explain a few things. Well, make preparation in a few years from now. Guelan said before suddenly disappearing from the ruined institute he left behind. Few while after, those who came to see the damage of the area came over in hordes. This event was broadcasted in the news for a week. As the death count of the children that died that day and had gone missing was tallied to high. Then the secret of the institute undergoing human trafficking and experiments had been exposed before the government had covered it up. It was already too late when the government tried to stop the news from spreading. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister who had met his beloved son ahead of time was informed about the events that unfolds in that institute. He left him all the information he needs to plan for the future prevention against this inhumane institute. Guelan indeed dropped by home to meet this old man whose appearance is in his early 30s despite being in his 40s. On his office table are countless reports regarding the institute's secrets, goals and connections. Obviously a hidden syndicate like that would have a huge backer to back them up. But the Prime Minister didn't expect that some people involved in this farce happened to be his people. A butler comes over to serve the master of the house some coffee. This old butler had been serving the Gue family since the childhood of the current master. He had also watched the original Guelan grow up to his current age. So when he drops by, just know this old man knew that his young master had changed. After serving the drink, "Master, please have some coffee," said the old butler called Old Ku. This old man is Kulu's father. Thank you, Old Ku," the Prime Minister named Gueshir said. Old Ku said, the young master had changed. You've noticed as well, Old Ku. Xiaolan had gotten better. He has emotions now. Is that the result of those hideous experiments? Asked Gueshir with a frown once he thought about the contents of those experiments done in that inhumane institute. But it had a successful outcome for the young master and the institute itself was destroyed by the young master, said Old Ku. It seems that the original Guelan had allowed himself to be kidnapped and placed in the institute because he heard the rumors of special ability gaining for such a place. But what the original wishes to gain is not a special ability, but he wishes to gain the so-called things called emotions and feelings. He took the risk of being experimented just for this reason. It's better for that evil place to be destroyed. I heard a lot of children died this time because of a madman bombing it. My boy was only able to save a few. It was already a job well done. But the boy seems to be so tired this time that he asked for a very long vacation on his own again. Do you think it is right for this old man to accept his request just like that, Old Ku? Asked Gueshir. The young master is responsible. If said he will return, then he would if he wanted to. The master should just wait home with me, replied Old Ku. The Prime Minister sighed as he could only helplessly agree to it. Sigh indeed. By the way, Old Ku. I heard your boy is on his way home with the rest of the children and he plans to create a new and special department that will accept those children in the future. I've agreed to it and I'll leave all the agreement for you to handle, said Goetia. Master, leave it to me. I will handle everything, replied old Ko. Goetia muttered, I will prepare the place for my boy to return to. He would be happy to see all his friends in that place when he returned. The young master would be delighted, said old Ko in full agreement. Once Kolu and Linyi returned to the clan together with the rest of the children, the original plot of the world finally started to progress on its own. Guilin secretly watched the whole thing enter the progressing stage until the thing stabilized. Post the preparation for your long slumber have been made, Biov, I see. I will now enter my deep sleep. Record of all things while I'm in my slumber, you. I'll leave the rest for you to handle, said Guilin. Please leave the rest to me and rest well, host. Once Guilin closed his eyes. He willingly let his body enter a long slumber. This time he needed to sleep for a long time to eliminate the hidden injuries left in his soul during the whole accident with the destroyer. No one knows the location of his sleeping chamber. Only his system does know the exact place where the host rests. Things continue to progress and all the main characters of the worlds were given a path to walk on towards their own future. As the plot had explained, Su Luan, Xia Yi and Yi Zheng were adopted by the couple, Kolu and Lin Yi, who retired from being a secret agent and become special police under the newly made department for ability users like Xia Yi and the rest. Yunli returned to the clan and got trained to become a proper substitute heir while Guilin was gone. Once Guilin returns he will work as his personal assistant. Li Xing on the other hand was adopted by Professor Sen and lived in South City until he matured. Everyone got separated but planned their own paths for their future. In the future their paths will cross and they will meet each other again. That one night when Xia Yi, who always sleeps with Guilin by his side, had to sleep alone without any presence of Guilin in his life. His nightmare was full of Guilin's fleeting figure in the last moment they'd separated. Xia Yi woke up in the middle of the night panting and his breathing was totally out of sync. There are traces of tears in the corner of his eyes, but his crimson eyes blazed with sudden madness and obsession instead. I will find you, Loner. No matter where you are or who you are. Then when I find you, I will never allow you to escape anymore. My Jinger. At the last moment when he spoke that name his crimson eyes were glinting with darkness as if trying to taint the crimson with obsidian shade. It is obvious who this man is. Chapter 77 4.15 Third Blue Star. Prologue of the future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gui Clan's territory. Minister's place. Before Guilin disappeared in their world, he made sure that every single one of them had a place to stay too. He had never forgotten about them. The rest of the children's custody was left under the protection of the Gui clan. They were shielded by the authority of the Prime Minister. This is to prevent those parents who sold their children to that evil place for money and prevent them from repeating such deeds. Among the children 3 were adopted by the clan. Su Luan was adopted by Kolu, Yi Zheng was adopted by Lin Yi. While the most surprising of all, the Prime Minister had adopted Xia Yi as his godson and was given a new name of Gui Yi. He was trained to become the next seat as the future minister. Everyone from the clan was surprised by the minister's decision except for his confidant old Ko. Even Kolu and Lin Yi were in disbelief when they heard about it. Despite everyone's astonishment, Xia Yi remained calm. Seeing his cool reaction, Prime Minister Guilin and his confidant, old Ko, was nodding and smiling in their hearts. They really didn't see things wrong about this child the young master had fancied. The child only asked one question. His eyes were blank as if empty and there was no hint of changes in his mood. The adults can see that this child, which is not even 9, is not that bad and even a bit like their clan's young master. Seeing this, the other elders of the clan had sighed in relief. Before Xia Yi was asked to be adopted, the elders were informed about this plan. They were at first very against it, after all the child is an outsider without any hint of Gui's bloodline. But when they've heard that their young master Lon had greatly fancied this boy, they were half skeptical and half agreeing in their hearts. This is because they knew that their young master Lon had never allowed anything to enter his sight, much less accept someone. Xia Yi was the first one and maybe the last one. Gui Shi could see from the hidden vigilance and high intelligence within Xia Yi's eyes. He had only seen these types of eyes from one person. His child, Gui Lan. A child that had been different from the rest since birth, a type of extreme that is beyond the rest of normality. He is so special that the rest of the people in the world were detached from him. His position is aloof and lonely. As if no one could be his match. That's why when Gui Lan grew up, as years passed by and still haven't learned what emotion and feelings are, he wasn't surprised. Because in his heart, Gui Lan couldn't accept anyone not like him, including his own father. But Xia Yi is different from him and the rest. He may have a cold temperament and treated others as air, but no one could complain. He is completely above them all when it comes to intelligence and abilities, except for Gui Lan. Not even the rest of the children from the institute is his match. This is also the reason why Gui Lan fancied him. They were the same type of person. Moreover, he had a feeling that as long as Xia Yi is here with them, that the child will definitely go home in this place. This old man is willing to gamble with this feeling to keep his son by his side. Staring at the handsome, strict-looking man with the same features of Gui Lan except for his blue eyes, "Why?" asked Xia Yi to Gui Shi. He was asking the reason why Gui Shi is able to accept him despite knowing that he might take away Gui Lan in the future. Xia Yi is not a fool. He knew that this old man before him was informed of every single detail about Gui Lan. This includes his obsession and close relation to the former. Though in this world same-sex marriage had been long accepted and technology is high enough for the others to not worry of not having descendants, there is still a clear line between the high-class families and commoners. The Gui clan just happened to be from the highest ladder. No. They are the peak itself. He couldn't believe that the minister was willing to accept him for no reason. After all, he is someone with nothing. No fame, no wealth, no connection and no background. He doesn't even have a family except for Gui Lan. He is an orphan with nothing special except for his high intelligence and psychic ability. If we are talking about IQ, Gui Lan is enough to match him. For psychic ability there is Yi Zheng, Su Luan and even the rest of the children from the institute. Xia Yi cannot even be considered as a unique existence. But the strict-looking old man just gave him the familiar sly smile that he always sees from Gui Lan. This is only one reason. It is because my Xiao Lan likes you a lot. Isn't this enough reason to keep you here? Replied Gui Shi. Xia Yi answered him with silence as he then saw the old man tap his temple secretly. Obviously he is asking Xia Yi to read his mind. Gui Shi's thoughts. I will give you wealth, connection and power under your control. In exchange, when Xiaolan chooses to stay by your side, my only request is for you to live here in this mansion with me. I know that my Xiaolan does not listen to me, but he listens to your words. My only wish is to see my son until the end of my life. To achieve that I am willing to give you anything just for this. Do we have a deal? Xia Yi, who had no other bargaining chips except for Gui Lan's feelings for him, agreed, as there are no disadvantages for him and Gui Lan. To him he could stay anywhere as long as Gui Lan is with him. I agree, Godfather, said Xia Yi. Hearing his positive reply, the Prime Minister nodded with a small smile on his face. Good. Old Ku, the adoption papers, said Gui Shi. Here is it, Master, said Old Ku. The loyal old butler had immediately passed a small folder to the master. These are adoption papers Gui Shi prepares for Xia Yi. After receiving it, Gui Shi passed it to Xia Yi for signing. Once everything was signed, Gui Shi patted the boy's shoulder and left him in the Old Ku for the rest of the things to be done. Go with Old Ku. He will show you to your room. It was just beside Xiao Lan's room with a connecting door next to it. You rest for the night. Tomorrow after breakfast we will talk, said Guesher. Xia only nods his head in agreement before leaving the room with old Ku. A while ago, Xia Yi took a short silence before he answered, of course to the rest of the people who don't know his ability to read minds might think he's talking nonsense. But people from his former team knew that the minister must have taken advantage of Xia Yi's ability to read minds and use it to tell him something only the two of them could know. After everything was arranged for the rest of the children, the adults had sent them back to their rooms for now. Dinner was served in each room where the children rested. Inside the office only the Prime Minister, old butler Ku Lu, and Lin Yi remains. The two agents fill up the gaps with what Gue Lan had explained before. Because of the different perspectives, the details focus more on Gue Lan than the whole content. The Prime Minister, who heard the truth behind the institute, said the explosion was not a bomb and was now frowning. Are you saying that it was not a bomb that destroyed the institute but a Esper like the rest of the children, said Guesher. Yes. That Esper was already an adult. His abilities were beyond what we can accept. He can keep himself elevated on air. Enough force that could ruin a whole building. That kind of superhuman ability. The enemies might have more of it, explained Kulu. Inferno Syndicate was it? These groups shouldn't have existed at all, exclaimed old Ku. Prime Minister, actually we have another comrade that got separated during the escape. We had resumed connection with him. He told us little useful information. Said Lin Yi. He said that the person whom the young master had fought seems to be the head of the syndicate. His name Mo Yen, a powerful Espers on the same level as the young master. But thanks to their last battle, both incur heavy injuries. This must be the reason why the young master chose to disappear for now. He needs time to heal. This means the head of the syndicate is in the same situation. He shouldn't be able to make big moves for a few years, said Kulu. Guesher, Shaolan had bought us enough time to prepare. Then we will need to use it well. I will agree to your proposal to create a new department in Metropolitan Police. Old Ku will make the details clear. But you cannot force the children who didn't wish to join. Leave it to me, master, said old Ku. As for that other friend of yours, don't let him join with you guys first, allow him to gather more information outside. We'll summon him back when the preparation on our side had been completed, said Guesher. Understood, Prime Minister. The three saluted. On the other hand, in a city somewhere in the south, Professor Sen and little Li Xing had bought a small house to live in. In the beginning Li Xing was silent the whole time after being separated from the rest of his friend. He also hasn't forgotten that last moment when their youngest chose to stay in that place to block their enemy for them. His last smile. No one knows what is his current state nor where he is now. Professor Sen, who had been watching Li Xing, who was sitting in the chair while dazed, felt worried for the child. Sen asked his system in his mind, "System, how is the Lord? It's been days since he fought that destroyer. The host has nothing to worry about. The Venerable Lord had successfully defeated the destroyed, but there is a problem. It seems that the one the Lord fought is nothing but a mere clone of the destroyer and only has half of its original strength. Doesn't this mean that the destroyer is still alive then?" asked Sen with his face starting to turn pale. He felt the strength that the clone had. It was already a god state despite just being a clone. This means the original body had at least the cultivation of a god king. Fuck. This is scary. A god king. System. Let's go make a report about this now. So reinforcement would come here, said Sen while panicking in his mind. Please don't worry with your little brain, my host. The Venerable Lord had already issued the report and the main system would be sending a reinforcement. Sigh good. How is the Lord's current situation then? Inquired Senior. The Venerable Lord had entered deep slumber for healing. His vessel is badly injured and there seems to be a problem with his soul. There must be a reason why he is currently not working. I've checked, he was listed to be under vacation with no limit. He's on vacation. Why would he be here in this lesser world then? Asked Senior. The private matters of the Venerable Lord had nothing to do with us. Host, please focus on your task instead. Tisk, stinky system. Murmured Sen under his breath. Host had to make sure the protagonist show would be able to meet his friend 15 years from now. You first have to become a mother. Fuck your mother. Your whole family is a mother. Exclaimed Sen in anger. System is a male. My body is even taller and more handsome than the host's original appearance. I can become your father with my age. Shut up. Shut up. You are an annoying system. Screamed Sen in his mind. Scolding him non-stop in his thoughts. They've all gone in different ways. Among the three pairs only Guilin had gone missing. No one knew where he was, even the Prime Minister doesn't know where his son had gone. But Xia Yi and the rest of the team knew he was alive somewhere. As for why the team knew that Guilin is alive is simple. Xia Yi used his mind-reading ability on the Prime Minister secretly when they first met, and in his mind he saw Guilin had dropped by his house before suddenly disappearing again. As for the reason why he went home, Xia Yi and the rest were informed why. It was something that involved their future. A first step towards the path of the future they've chosen. Chapter 78. 4.16 Third Blue Star. Supernatural Investigation Department. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 15 years had passed in a blink of an eye. A casual evening of a normal day. The sky is black like an endless carpet of darkness. The winds howls which echoes within the quiet modern city. In some suburbs, a big-breast woman in an explicit red dress runs for her life. Her skin had scratched all over on her arms and legs. These are obvious traces of cuts from something sharp. Obviously someone is after her, but the woman had no intention to call out for help. Even if she is in such an obscure place, there is no way someone can hear her. Pants. 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 A huge force hit her back, making her fall on her face. Now even her face is full of blood as it landed firmly on the sharp stones on the group. The woman could help but screamed in pain. Ah! My face! She exclaimed with a bloody and now distorted appearance. During her fall she unfortunately twisted her ankle. There's an unbearable pain on her legs. Behind her a footstep slowly comes over in her direction. Hearing the sound behind her, the woman wanted to crawl away. She knew that if that person caught her, then her ending wouldn't need to be mentioned. She would be gone for good. No, no, no. I don't want to die. Please don't kill me. The woman pleads, but no one listens. But before she could crawl away she felt that she lost his feeling on both her hands and feet. There's a warm droplet splashing on her face. When she looked down she saw that her hands and feet were cleanly cut off from her wrists and legs. Then she felt an immense pain that overtook her mind. She could only scream in agony. Ah! The shrieking of the lady echoes endlessly in the quiet city, but as if no one can hear it. No came for her. With her knowing the footsteps behind her had finally stopped. Apparently the person chasing her had reached her position. Standing just a short distance away from her. With ugly distorted face tainted with both of her blood and tears she looked at the person who cut off her hands and feet. She could see knives hovering around the man. He is obviously like her. An Esper with a special ability. But her ability is weaker in combat. She could only control liquid matter to create a diversion or make an ambush attack. There is no other liquid matter around her except for her blood. The lady could only use whatever is available and created a water blade made from her blood. Thus, a blood blade was created to attack the man in pure black clothes. Die for this old lady. She screamed as her blade made of blood flew towards the man, targeting his neck. The lady watched as her blade was about to reach her enemy's neck, but before she could rejoice she felt a cold object pass through her neck and then her line of sight tilted. With her eyes widened in shock, "How?" asked the lady, as the last thing she saw before her life ends are those pairs of crimson orbs glinting with unknown madness and coldness. Obviously this person doesn't look at him as a human being. Because the ability user had died, the blood blade had fallen like a puddle of water before it could reach the crimson-eyed man. The controller is dead and so the ability is cancelled on its own. Obviously this man is cruel and merciless. He used his ability to control things like knives and such. He silently and slowly cut off limbs by limbs of the woman without any emotion on his handsome face. The moon that was hidden behind the clouds had bestowed a dimmed light on the man, revealing his features. Long charcoal hair tied up with a simple single-colored rubber band. Sharp jaws and features. Tall nose and downturn-shaped eyes. Crimson irises as if it was dyed with blood. There is no apparent emotion imprinted on his handsome face and his temperament is even colder than glaciers. But he has such an overbearing presence that gives out a feeling of facing death. This man is obviously a killer by nature. The man just gave the dead woman a one glance before peering at the darkness made of shadow not far from him. Within the still silence of the empty place his icy voice was heard, "Clean up the rest of her group. Just leave her corpse here. Leave traces of the syndicate, those people of that department will handle the rest," said the crimson-eyed man. A voice replied from the shadow, "As you've ordered, boss." Then the shadows move as if leaving the location to move in another place. Once his subordinate left, this crimson-eyed man looked at the moon with longing for a distant figure. There's a melancholy deep within those blood-colored irises. "Where are you now, Mylon?" this man whispered before walking away. His tall structure had a feeling of loneliness on it. He continues to walk deeper in the abyss looking for someone from within his daydreams. Morning. Central City. Countless of tall buildings with tinted windows and glass doors. A smooth cemented car highway and patterned position light posts at both sides. Thought current turned off as it is morning. The bustle crowd of people surrounded a certain position but was blocked by the encirclement of Metropolitan Police. At the center of the restricted circle is a dismembering and bloody broken figure of a woman. There are obvious traces of fight in the area, but the traces left were not made by an ordinary human doing. A huge commotion had gathered and was done in the middle of the city. The crowd was controlled by the Metropolitan Police before a chaos was made. There's a bustle murmuring within the spectators by the side. Someone died again. I heard the killer was an Esper. No shit. Those Espers are really dangerous. Why do they even exit? SSHSS, watch your tongue. There are rumors that those killed were Espers as well. Are you having an internal conflict? This is crazy. Most of the criminals these days are those psychopathic Espers. They should all die. Shut up. Do you want to get killed? Those people are coming. Those people. Who are they? The spectator watched as a tall and muscular man wearing a suit came over. This man had a height of at least 1.8 meters. He had a blowout haircut appearing a bit wind-blown and a little wild. The look is characterized by a full volume top, which is styled tall, and short or faded sides. Looking around with gimlet eyes, there's a serious expression on his attractive face. Following behind him is a few heads shorter than the tall man, wearing a white gown worn by doctors. Medium-length two-block hairstyle paired with an extended fringe, while the same hue of those cherry blossom and doe-shaped pink irises. There's a kind smile on his gorgeous face. His aura shows his gentle temperament. When the Metropolitan Police noticed these two's arrival, they immediately saluted towards the tall man. Chief E. Welcome. The police captain said. This tall is the mature version of Yi Zheng. He is now the chief of SID, Supernatural Investigation Department Unit. The SID unit handles crimes that were done by special ability users such as espers or psychics. Nowadays the existence of special humans called ability users and espers are already well known. This started after a certain institute was said to have exploded due to a bomb. The media spoke otherwise. They've arrived at the scene before the officials seal it off and the information about the ability users and espers were stolen. The video recording of some children and people using supernatural abilities had been spread. The officials tried to control the news but the cover-up of the government had arrived late. By the time things had gotten controlled, everyone had already heard about the existence of psychic and espers. Few years later, crimes done using special abilities had started sprouting out. Theft and murder of ordinary human become common. Most criminals were espers who were ambitious and had thoughts of taking over the control of authority. These kinds of cases increase as years pass by and the Prime Minister had no other choice but to make countermeasures. He gathers psychics and ability users who wish to serve the country and created a special department for them in the Metropolitan Police Headquarters. SID, Supernatural Investigation Department Unit. This a special unit made up of both ability users and ordinary people. They worked on cases that had connection with espers and psychics. There is also a special prison built where ability users who had done a crime were thrown to. The leaders of these special departments were special rank agents, and despite being an ordinary person the unit had respected them. These two were Ku Lu and Lin Yi. There's even a special institute for young ability users where they were taught how to control their abilities. Teaching them the right way to use their abilities and how to stop it from going berserk. The dean of this institute is a friend of the two leaders of SID. He is the former scientist that worked for the syndicate but betrayed his organization because he couldn't bear its cruelty. Psyche Institute Dean, Lawn Senator. Most graduates of this institute work for the SID. Only after giving away a pleasing passing mark that ability users of this institute were allowed to leave the place. This is within the ground of the government laws to protect the rights of ability users. Yi Zheng accepted the greeting and entered the crime scene with a forensic doctor following behind him. This forensic doctor is called Li Guang. An ordinary person, but he had a surprising ability that wouldn't pale much in comparison to supernatural abilities. Photographic memory, an ability to remember things as photos in his mind as memories. Every single detail to its appearance, color, size, everything. An exact and perfect copy of the thing's details were stored in his mind as long as he saw it. Yi Zheng with a serious expression on his face said, "Report. Name is Shana. An elemental type esper. The deceased is recorded in the top wanted list of espers in the world. She is ranked 100th. Her former targets were children. She kills them for their blood and uses it as her weapon. Her ability is to turn liquid matter to solid and use it to attack her target. We had found traces of fighting and electromagnetic energy in the area. Her killer is an ESP-type ability user. It's telekinesis. It's the usual serial killer." Li Guang secured the information left in the crime scene. "As for the deceased record, we are going to the institute," said Yi Zheng as he tasked the rest of his team to clean up the scene. "Okay. Chief, I won't take long," said Li Guang with a dazzling smile on his face. But Yi Zheng's expression remained serious as if he saw nothing. He just nodded his head and issued the remaining orders. "Go. The rest clear the crowd," said Yi Zheng. Li Guang started working on his tasks while sneaking a peek on Yi Zheng. It is obvious that he is highly interested in the chief of SID. But the rest of the team knew that his attempts were just a stone thrown in a sea. In short, it's meaningless. Everyone knows that their chief already has a sweetheart. This person is an esteemed personnel from the Psyche Institute. An ability user like Yi Zheng. They've been together for years and have been together since high school. Li Guang had no gaps to insert himself to. Li Guang is a newly joined member of their department, so he wasn't informed about Professor Li's relationship with their chief. Everyone in their unit knew that their chief was a henpecked lover. After clearing up the crime scene, Yijing together with Li Guang and another ordinary member of SID went to Psyche Institute as planned. They wanted to ask special assistance from some high-ranked ability users working in the institute. To do that they need to meet their chief's lover, Li Xing, for confirmation. Institute's library. In a hidden corner of the institute's huge library, a man wearing glasses was looking through some book records with glasses on his face. He is looking around seriously as if he couldn't find what he wanted. This man is one of the professors of the institute. He is someone who teaches knowledge about mental abilities with regards to control, restriction and intuition. This is an adult Yunli. Within the shadows created by the bookshelves, Yunli glances at the sound waves created by some movements in the area. This is his special ability, rhythm intuition. The knowledge/intuition of the rhythm and fluctuation of the sound waves. From the shadows of the bookshelf at the exact location Yunli is staring, a human figure appeared. Slowly the shadows retreated and revealed the appearance of the man within the shadows. This man had a hairstyle that is attributed to the immense layering through his dull brown hair on top. The bangs are maintained long, covering the entire forehead and skimming the eyebrows. His almond-shaped eyes show his languid and gloomy personality, even the color of his irises is dull blue as if a fading sapphire gem. This person was Yunli's partner before. He is Su Luan. Su Luan works for Gui clan like Xie Yi. They don't frequently show themselves to the mass as they live a life like secret agents. If the rest of the group work under the light, they work behind the scenes in darkness. Their job is more of cleaning up instead. Yunli stared at Su Luan with his casual gaze as usual, but there's an obvious annoyance hidden within his gaze. If you're here because your boss is asking if I know where the young master is, then scram. How many times do I need to tell you? Like you both are uninformed, I don't have any news about cousin's whereabout. Why don't you pester uncle instead, said Yun Lin with a grim expression. Su Luan replied, if the Prime Minister knew where his son is, then the boss wouldn't need to look blindly. Moreover, I am not here because of the boss's orders, I just want to tell you that the fool will be visiting here soon. You're talking about Yijing. Is there a cold case again? Our institute is not a charity, said Yunli. Su Luan moved silently to stand behind Yunli and hugged him. I know. Who let him be the lover of your institute vice-dean? Li Xing spoils him too much, said Su Luan while spending time with his lover in his free time. Sai, I'm sure that Yijing would definitely come to me to ask the same question about my cousin. Let's go home early today, said Yunli, who took a few books from the shelves and passed to Su Luan to hold. You're bringing too many past records again. Are the traces we've gathered not enough? Asked Su Luan. Not enough. Yijing doesn't even think that those traces you've intentionally left are for us, but instead a trap left by the syndicate instead, said Yunli. Su Luan's expression turned darker. Yijing is still stupid as before. But the boss doesn't wish to work with them because he needs more time to look for Gui Lan, said Su Luan. If my cousin doesn't want to show himself, how could Xie Yi find him? Leave them be. They'll meet if fate allows them to. A month ago. In the dean's office. Professor Sen is serving milk tea to his guest. This guest is a young man with elegant and noble forbearance. The features were similar from before but more refined and perfected. A wanderlust blue-green phoenix-shaped eyes which excludes elegance and iciness of a frozen mountain peak. A grown-out layered straight-cut hair with the same hue similar to that of the sea. He had puffy lips which upturned to a playful smile. They were kiss-inspiring and satin-soft. This person is truly captivating. His appearance is heavenly enough to think that he is from the elven race instead of being a human. Professor Sen treated this person with a servile attitude and treated him as some from above his rank. This person seems to have made some requirements and talked with Professor Senior. I will make the necessary preparation for you, Lord, said Sen. Chapter 79. 4.17 Third Blue Star. Helper. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Psyche Institution. This place is a training facility for ability users or espers. There are no tuition fees, you just have to fulfill the requirement of being able to use supernatural abilities of any kind. Graduating here means as an esper you have completed necessary training on control and the government has deemed you as a special individual. It means you have received the recognition of the people around you even towards the ordinary human as a harmless being. Thanks to the Institute, the espers who received an identification ID from here are able to work on any platform, even working with ordinary humans. Ever since the day that information about ability users and espers had spread to the mass, the crime rate had gone up, and most of it were caused by espers who overused their abilities for their own greed and envy. SID, Supernatural Investigation Department, is a special unit under Metropolitan Police which handles cases that involve espers. Among the officers in this unit were certified espers that were evaluated by the Psyche Institute. Everything about this esper, including his origin and whole background, were fully checked through, and those possible spies were not given opportunities to enter the special department. An esper aspiring to work in SID must pass the qualification of Psyche Institute first before they could begin their training under SID. Yi Zheng, the current chief of SID, is the lover of Psyche Institute's vice dean, who is Li Xing. The relationship between SID and Psyche Institute is closely related to the people involved to that incident 15 years ago. Yi Zheng's ability only allows him to see through people's morality value, and it's not that helpful with regards to crime investigation. This is why when things are already beyond him, Yi Zheng always comes over to the Psyche Institute to ask help from his lover. Today he comes over for this very same reason. Psyche Institute. Li Xing's office. Li Xing, after 15 years, had matured into a kind and silent man. He has short hair with the same shade as cherry blossom but with a bit darker tone. A pleasing face with gentle features and a pair of effervescent, champagne pink eyes. An overall look for a silent beauty. This beauty is currently working on registration for new students. He needed to look through each registration to check for their backgrounds and possible connections outside the realm of family and such. For this kind of screening work his special ability of deduction is very useful. His photographic deduction is more useful for investigation than Yi Zheng's ability. Knock. Knock. While he is very busy with his work, someone suddenly knocked on his officer door. But before he could even allow the one outside to enter, the latter had entered the office like he owns the place. This person is silly lover Yi Zheng, who was grinning like a fool as soon as he entered his lover's office. Yi Zheng, who is smiling like a fool, walked towards his lover without hesitation. "Xing'er, I'm back," he said. His attitude is like an excited puppy meeting his owner after his daily walk. He even forgot that he has subordinates following behind him. Li Xing looked at Yi Zheng tenderly, as there's even a small smile in the corner of his lips, as, "Is there a problem with work again?" he asked as he complained, but his voice was pampering. "There is that too, but I wanted to see you more," replied Yi Zheng, who took away Li Xing from his table and pulled him to the couch for a guest to sit beside him. Li Xing knows that there is only one reason why Yi Zheng comes over in his working place. It will always be for one reason. It was about the serial killer who hunts for specified espers. This specified espers had one common thing. They were espers who were unregistered and killed normals secretly for unwanted reasons. In short, they kill for fun. They were nothing but psychopaths, and it happens that when they go beyond a line of reason that this unknown serial killer eliminates them but leaves their corpse in open as if giving a warning to someone. Not only that, sometimes this serial killer leaves traces that leads to information about the notorious esper syndicate, Inferno. But no matter what reason, killing is a crime. Even if this person lends them help to the Metropolitan Police headquarters, he is still a serial killer. These had been going on for 3 years. But despite their efforts of trying to catch this serial killer, there is no veil. The only thing they knew is that this person is an extremely strong esper and his ability is randomized every single time. This time he used telekinesis. "Chief. What should we do next?" asked the other subordinate who came with Yi Zheng aside from Li Guang. Yi Zheng replied, "You two go look for Yunli and check through the records of the deceased and all possible espers with the ability of telekinesis." Li Guang panicked after hearing that Yi Zheng is asking him to leave as well. "Yi Zheng, I. Call me chief," reprimanded Yi Zheng with a frown. Seeing the chief's ugly expression, the other officer with them could only bring away Li Guang. "Yes, sir," said the other officer as he pulled away Li Guang, who wanted to stay with Yi Zheng and secretly glared at his younger brother, Li Xing. Li Xing looked at his twin elder brother and sighed. When they met a year ago, Li Xing couldn't believe that this elder brother of his is still alive. After all, he was sold in the institute for hospital bills for Li Guang, who had problems in the heart. He had been living in the south with his foster father, Lan Sen, when they bumped into his family that time when we came over to visit the Gui clan. At that time Li Guang needed a heart donor because his situation had gotten worse. When his family accidentally bumps into them, they've tried all means to bring him home, intending to use him as a sacrificial pawn for their beloved son, Li Guang. But despite all the means they've used, his foster father had fully protected him over it all, adding the fact that they had connection with the Gui Lan. The Li family was thrown out of the central city as punishment. These events were all done under the command of the Prime Minister, Gui Lan's father. Which is why when he met Li Guang a year ago when he came over to drop off Yi Zheng's lunch, he was surprised. He didn't know what means the Li family had used to be able to return in central city, much less allow Li Guang work in SID. As everyone knows, it is even harder for a normal to be able to work in SID. You need to have a value that is closely equal to an esper. In short, as a normal human being, he needed some kind of talent that is beyond a normal human to be able to enter SID. He had Li Guang investigated. Then he learned that this twin elder brother of his has a talent called photographic memory. This is not a supernatural ability but closely related to mental type ability. But after testing for ESP, Li Guang had a result that he is just an ordinary person despite of this talent. In the end, everyone just accepted that Li Guang was given a talent despite being normal. Sorry, Xinger. It's because the higher up were pressuring dad and father that they've accepted Li Guang in SID. I was fully against it knowing it was him, said Yi Zheng. Yi Zheng is talking about his foster father, Lin Yi, and his lover, Ko Lu. These two had gotten married a few years ago, making him and Su Luan siblings on paper. It's alright, as Brother Yun told me that they've put the Li family under surveillance. If they did anything to me, the Gui clan will make their move. After all, Alan before he disappeared told the Prime Minister to look after us until he returns. Xia Yi and Su Luan had been looking after us secretly too, said Li Xing. Sigh. Though I see XU.GE here in this institute sometimes thanks to Ayun. It's been years since I've last seen Dage, Xia Yi, said Yi Zheng. Xia Yi is still looking for Alan. We totally lose connection to him all these years. 15 years have already passed, but there is still no news about Alan, said Li Xing with a sad expression on his face. Didn't Grandpa Gui and Grandpa Ko say that Alan is definitely alive? Xinger, don't worry, I'm sure Alan would return, said Yi Zheng in comfort to his lover. I know that. It's just that I'm worried about Xia Yi. He wouldn't go mad for not finding Alan, wouldn't he? Li Xing asked, but Yi Zheng didn't give an answer right away. He was silent. No, it's more like he didn't like to answer. Because he knew that the possibility of Xia Yi going mad has been increasing lately. His father, Ko Lu, usually returns home with a dark expression whenever he reports to Xia Ye's office. He says that Xia Ye's patience is reaching its limit. If there still aren't any news about Gui Lan this year, his father said that there is a huge possibility that Xia Yi would destroy all found branches of Inferno in anger. Yi Zheng has been honest since he is a child. It is hard for him to lie, especially towards his loved ones. That he might be close to going mad. Father said his patience is at its limit, he said. Hearing his lover's answer, Li Xing could only sigh helplessly. After all, they couldn't do anything about it. In their little group, the only person who could coax away Xia Ye's anger had always been Gui Lan. But the key person itself is missing. They don't know what they could do. Okay. Let's forget about this first. Talk about the case you brought with you, said Li Xing. Yi Zheng passed to his lover the information about the case of the dismembered corpse of the lady named Shana. Once Li Xing finished reading through the data of the case, he brought out the rest of the case that involves the serial killer they call Reaper. According to my deduction, there is a huge possibility that the Reaper had a special ability to replicate an Esper's special ability. Look here. In the first case, the method he used to kill is simple. He used poison. The target Esper that time was recorded to have the ability to control wind element. Look at the second case. The target Esper this time is a fire user, and the way he was killed is being chopped off piece by piece. There are traces of wind elements at the scene. As for the current case, you can see it yourself, explained Li Xing to his lover, who was seriously listening in the corner. His target before this lady is an Esper with skills of telekinesis. His ability allows him to steal an ability from the Espers he kills, said Yi Zheng with a serious expression on his face. Possible. But we don't know if the abilities he steals are made as his own or got overlapped after taking a new one. For now there's a higher possibility of the latter, but there is no way to check, replied Li Xing. Yes. This is a big breakthrough. For now we only need to check is the ability he used to kill the latest target is indeed telekinesis or something else. But currently I have no way of knowing how to get that information. If Alan or Dage is here, they could help us. But Alan is still missing and is a bit hard to meet Dage lately because of Gui clan's issues, said Yi Zheng. Beside him Li Xing was a bit quiet, as if thinking of something, then he suddenly remembered one person that may be able to help them. But thinking how eccentric that man is, made him think twice of letting his lover meet that person. Actually, there is a person that may be able to help you. He had a cognitive ability. A strong one at that, said Li Xing. What is his ability? Asked Yi Zheng with sparkling eyes. This cheap chief is willing to use any possible means to capture the Reaper. Li Xing, seeing his lover's sparkling eyes, couldn't help but pat his head. Yi Zheng, who is used to this kind gesture from his lover, lowered his head and let him pat it all he wanted. His ability is empathic retrocognition. It's the ability to see into the past using the emotions and sentiments of the target. It is an extremely dangerous cognition-skilled mental type. Because the possibility of the ability user being influenced by the remnant emotions might get to him. Moreover, he is my father's guest. I needed his permission first. For now you need to prepare an excellent psychologist, a PSI-D1, because this person has a glib mouth and has experience with hypnotism, explained Li Xing. Yi Zheng turned serious hearing the details about the man that could help them. This person seems a bit too dangerous. Not only he could gather information using his abilities without the target knowing. If he had the skills of hypnotism and an influencer, even I wouldn't be able to control him, said Yi Zheng. You cannot control him. I've met him before. His presence is a bit like Xia Yi, but his personality is a jolly version of Alan. He is extremely smart and his mood swings are unpredictable. There are two problems. One is that he had BPD, borderline personality disorder. Second is a distempered psychopath. Yi Zheng was rendered speechless with what he heard. He couldn't even hold the pile of papers in his hand properly when he heard what kind of person he needed to meet. It seems that his life would be in danger now before he could catch the Reaper. He needs to meet a psychopath before he could meet a serial killer. Yi Zheng's thoughts. Would I still be alive after meeting that person? A/N, borderline personality disorder, BPD, is also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder. He may feel very worried about people abandoning you, and either do anything to stop that happening or push them away. Asterisk have very intense emotions that can change quickly, for example, from feeling very happy and confident in the morning to feeling low and sad in the afternoon, not have a strong sense of who you are or what you want from life. With your ideas about this changing significantly depending on who you're with. Asterisk find it very hard to make and keep stable relationships or friendships, act impulsively and do things that could harm you, such as binge eating, using drugs or driving dangerously. Asterisk have suicidal thoughts and self-harm. Asterisk feel empty and lonely a lot of the time. Asterisk get very angry, and struggle to control your anger, struggle to trust other people. Distempered psychopath. They crave excitement, have low tolerance for boredom and are drawn to dangerous things. For the rest of information you can check it on https://www.mind.org.uk/info.mental.health.problems/personality.disorders/types.of.personality.disorder/hashtag borderline personality disorder BPD https://www.news24.com/health24/lifestyle/healthy.workplace/employee.well-being/5.com and.types.of.psychopaths.u.might.find.in.the.workplace. And how.you.can.avoid.becoming.there.mind.games.20190708